15 episodes. Episode 15 with my friend CT.
Right on.
Your whole name is how do I say it?
Cheetharoth.
Cheetharoth.
Yeah.
Is that your first and last name?
No, just my first name.
Cheetharoth.
Yep.
And then your last name starts with a T, correct?
Yeah, Tong.
Tong. Okay, yeah. Man, I'm glad it's CT.
Yeah, CT's a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for driving all the way out here.
Oh, no,
Very cool, man. I've been talking to you about doing this for months, maybe since the beginning, and I'm finally, you finally made it happen. I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Is that loud enough, Brennan? Because I can't hardly hear myself. Can you hear yourself?
Yeah, I'm good.
Turn the mic just a little bit. Anyways, Freddie says, CT. He's like, what are you doing? I said, CT's coming over. For what? I said, podcast. He goes, Cock and Titties is coming over? He said that's the only way he could remember.
Yep. I'll never live it down. Never.
Well, Freddie's been on twice, and I'm really grateful you decided to come on. I haven't done this in 3 weeks because I've had COVID. As Freddie would say, COVID, because his V's are B's.
Yep.
But it feels good to get back. And now Brennan's going to take over. He's going to start running the show for me. We'll see how he does. We'll see if he gets the thing switched. I tried to do it without somebody last time, just letting them record and then go back and edit, and it was such a nightmare to actually. It's just you need somebody to actually do it. It's a lot of effort, and then it's a lot of effort for people that have to come out to my house, drive from all the way from Hendersonville.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah,
not that bad.
So every time we get together, we always have really good conversations, and I was thinking, hell, let's record one, but we always do it under the influence of alcohol. So we have got a drink, but we're not drunk. We're usually pretty deep.
Well on our way.
Yeah.
At
we get really
pit stop or two.
We get pretty philosophical, and I thought we would try to capture that.
Right on.
But there's probably a ton of things that I don't know about you. So give me a little bit of background, because I've been thinking buddies of mine have been like, you got to start introducing your guests. Let us know who they are. And as far as it goes back to me, I know you was in the military, and I know you were a GM for some pretty big clubs in Nashville, correct? Is that correct?
Not a GM.
Okay.
But
you was in management?
Yeah.
Management for some clubs on Broadway. Mm-hmm. And then COVID hit. But anyways, I'll let you tell me. Kind of give me an idea who you are, where you're from, because I figure I might learn something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not a whole lot. It's kind of a blur,
Really?
When you're under the influence. But,
yeah.
Born and raised in Iowa. Okay. Lived there most of my life, and then joined the Navy fresh out of high school, and ended up in Florida for 6 or 7 years. Moved here about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And
met Nicole?
Yeah, met Nicole.
Is that why you stayed?
Yeah. Yeah. Got Nicole and I, my wife Nicole. Yeah. We have 2 boys, Pierce and Paxton.
Yeah.
I mean, they're awesome. They're our world. Nicole still puts up with me. Don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Well, see, there's already some stuff. For some reason, I was thinking Marine Corps, because some of the guys that we run with are Marines. I don't know if anybody's Army. I think I'm the only one that joined the Army, and I was Army National Guard, so.
Yeah, I'm Navy and Jay.
You know, it's funny. I was actually in the Navy.
Yeah?
I joined the Navy. Okay. My dad was in the Navy, so obviously you want to follow your father's footsteps, and my buddy Brad wanted to go into what's it called, the Battle Buddy program, or?
Yeah, where you can enlist with somebody. They give it a cute name, and then when you get to boot camp, they're like, we don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, we did that.
Battle buddy stuff.
We joined, and you have to take a test to see where you place. Mm-hmm. And I always just bullshitted test. If I couldn't cheat off somebody, I would just see was my answer to everything. And I was like, what's the worst job you could get? So I just bullshitted my way through the test, and they said I could be a seaman. I was like, sounds good. He said, you can do whatever you want. You have any job you want. I was like, fucking great, man. So I'd go home, tell my dad, I was like, Dad, listen, man, they told me I can be a seaman. He just started laughing. He's like, great, son. You're going to swab decks, paint, shit like that, because he was in the Navy. He was on a destroyer in Vietnam. And I just thought, golly, man, I can't bullshit my way through everything, you know?
Yeah,
but
there comes a time where it's like, okay, maybe a cutoff.
Well, I finally changed, and I started investing a little more effort, but it got me a long way through life, bullshitting.
Oh, yeah.
But so anyways, we did that. My buddy Brad decided at the last minute to back out. So we went to MEPS, got sworn in, And he changed his mind. And I was like, shit, I got to do this by myself. So my parents had a convenience store, and across the street was a National Guard Armory, the 1175th, Tullahoma, Tennessee, I think. Yeah, 1175th. And my buddy was a good friend of my parents, good friend of mine. He was a recruiter. He was a old school Green Beret, became a recruiter, and he's like, Nathan, what the fuck are you doing, man? Join the National Guard. Why are you joining the military? I was like, oh, shit, man, I want to do something, you know? It's like you can get whatever you want out of the National Guard. You get to go through boot camp, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, it's right across the street. I'm like, good point. I said, but I've already enlisted. And he said, fuck him. I'll get you out of it. So, and I said, I've already sworn in. He goes, that doesn't matter. You got to swear in a second time. I was like, all right. So, man, I called the Navy guys and they're madder than hell. Like, you can't get out. And I was like, oh, man, my buddy's already hooked me up and put me in the National Guard, and I'm getting shipped out whenever it was. And that's what happened. Joined the National Guard, got into basic training, didn't have to go to AIT because I had something called civilian acquired skills. So because I was a 88 Mike, that's when I joined, truck driver, and I grew up working for a feed mill as a kid in Summitville, Tennessee, and so I was always driving fertilizer trucks, grain, stuff like that. Because I had driven a vehicle that weighed more than 5 tons for so many years.
The audio in your voice is like, is it supposed to be barely delayed? Because I hear you.
Yeah, it's probably going to be delayed.
Okay, just making sure I don't want to mess up the whole thing.
No, you're good.
All right, just make sure.
5 tons. So because I had done that through like high school for over 2 years, I joined. They let me in something called the CAS program, Civilian Acquired Skills, and it did not require me to go to AIT, which is training college for.
Right.
Yeah. So I did that. Got out of basic training. I was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Went home, got a car, went back like in a week, and I'm active duty. Like that was my, instead of going to AIT, I was active duty. They activated me for however many months it was. Gave me a roommate, and he didn't like that much because he had his own room, but he wasn't there long. He got deployed. So I basically took over his room, and I was there for, 3-4 months. And then the whole unit was getting deployed. So I got out early. They let me go home early. But I remember I was in Fort Leonard Wood, and I could buy this Grand Am, and I'm riding around Fort Leonard Wood, and all the dudes I was in basic training with were still there for AIT, and I'd see them marching. And I'm like, what's up? They were fucking like, what the fuck? And nobody understood how I did not have to go to AIT. They thought it was the weirdest thing ever. So they all thought I was, what is it called? Where you're like an investigator or undercover in the military? What's that called? CID. They were like, bullshit, you're not, you didn't come from basic training. I said, yeah, I did. They said, you have to be CID, criminal investigation or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure the Army's.
I was a kid. I was young. I was only like 19, 20 years old. So I just said, whatever, I didn't play along, but I didn't argue with them. But the whole time I was there, they thought I was undercover. And it worked out great for me because they didn't make me, nobody picked on me.
No hazing.
None. Apparently they were like, yeah, there's a drug problem. It goes all the way up through the first sergeant. And I don't know. It could have all been bullshit. They could have been hazing. I don't know. But either way, I didn't have to go to AIT. They thought it was unusual. And it was incredible. Wonderful experience. I got to experience active duty for 3-4 months. One day I'm in formation. Private Carroll, do you want to go home? Yes, Sergeant. And by God, I went home. I went home, packed up all my shit, and left. And that was it. And I joined the National Guard, and I was already in it, but that was my military career. 6 years in National Guard. That was a long story, but I'd never told it to anybody. Like, I don't know. To me, it was unusual.
Right. Yeah, actually, I signed up when I was 17.
Yep.
I was going to be a CB. It's like construction in the Navy.
Seems odd.
Yeah.
Navy, construction. Because
yeah,
I think of everybody on a ship.
Yeah, there's a lot of Navy that's not on ships.
Yeah.
Signed up to be a BU, which is a builder.
Yeah.
And,
Well, you know the acronyms.
Yeah.
I don't know any of
Well,
them.
and that's the Navy's equivalent to your.
Yeah, I know.
The Army and the Marine Corps.
They all have
like 731 Bravo or
Yeah.
whatever it is. I don't even know them. But
Really? Because I sucked at it.
But yeah, we have rates. So it's a lot easier. There's a little insignia on your sleeve, like with a little sign. That's how you can tell like what their job is. But a buddy of mine, Scott said he wanted to join the Navy, so got him down to the recruiting station and signed him up. But we couldn't both be builders for some odd reason. So we're like, okay, well, what can we both do? They gave us a little list, and gunner's mate popped up and seemed to be the most appealing one. Said, yeah, you can work on big guns, missile launching systems. You can be out at sea. You can do other stuff. You can go spec ops, spec warfare if you want, all this and that. So we're like, sure, why not? Which gunner's mate's one of the original rates of the Navy, still around to this day, since the beginning. It'll never go away. But yeah, we joined, went to boot camp together, went to our A school together. And
so you did like the Battle Buddy program.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I can't remember what it is. I don't think it was Battle Buddy. And it's not.
I don't know what they call it. I don't know what they call it.
But yeah, he's still in. He's a chief or a senior chief now.
Really, he stayed.
Yeah.
Well, was he retirement age yet? Has he got 20 years in?
Let's see. How old am I? Yeah.
I don't know. How old are you?
Yeah, up 38.
38?
38. Yeah. So he actually, let's see. What is this? January still?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This April or May, he'll be retirement eligible. I mean, as far as 20 years goes.
Yeah.
Anyways. But yeah.
I don't know, man. I've had a love-hate relationship with the military. Once, I don't have any regrets, but I think I would have loved the Navy because my dad talked about it so much. He was stationed in Hawaii, always in Southeast Asia. He was all over the place. And I just think I would have really enjoyed. I hate that I talked myself out of it, I guess. But I didn't need a buddy. I was going to do it regardless.
Right.
I really think I missed out on a lot of adventures. Although I wouldn't have this life, I wouldn't be having this conversation. So I'm not disappointed.
Yeah, no, never any regrets. Sometimes I look back and think maybe I should have done something Army, Marine Corps, that route. But I picked the Navy because all the recruiters, the Army recruiters, the Marine recruiters, the Air Force, and the Navy recruiters are just real dudes. Mm-hmm. I sit down, talk to them.
Yeah, they were they were laid back. They didn't take themselves too seriously.
Exactly.
It felt like a casual, and that's ultimately how my dad described it. And I think the Air Force would be very similar to that. I think, I got a lot of friends in the Marines, and I got a lot of friends that went to the Army, Navy, Air Force. And it's a different type of person for each one. And
and depending on their job, too.
Yeah, it draws a different type of person. I mean, I can kind of pick people out a lot of times. Sometimes I'm surprised. But I don't know. I was a terrible soldier for a while. Actually, I was really a good soldier. I just didn't do well with nonsense. And they, people of rank are full of shit a lot of times, and they want you to, they want to establish some kind of dominance over you. Like there's a hierarchy there, and they want to make sure you respect their position and rank. Mm-hmm. And I respect people. I have a really hard time respecting rank. You have to earn my respect, and I've always been that way as a kid and growing up, and I didn't really realize I was that person. I thought I was just difficult. I didn't know what I was, but I really struggled when I got back to my National Guard unit because they were making me do dumb shit. I was ready to just go do my job, and that wasn't an option. You have to go air up all 80 tires of this guy's truck. What? So let him air his own fucking tires up. I mean, I'm you know what I mean? I'm here to do a job. Let me do my job. Right. And I get it. You got to earn your way, and I have no problem with that. But don't try to take advantage of me. That's the thing. You know what I mean? I don't mind a little hazing. I don't mind being fucked with. I don't mind having to jump through hurdles. But, there's a point that I'm like, nah, go fuck yourself, And it didn't matter to me. And, man, they really struggled with me for a while. I started coming in late, started missing all the time, coming in hungover, alcohol pouring out of my pores. I was in my prime of partying, so...
Yeah.
And it seemed like drill was every weekend. It was only once a month. And I remember, so you got to do 2 weeks every year, 2 week summer camp. And I had opened a mechanic shop in Tullahoma. And I didn't want to go because I didn't like them. I didn't like my platoon sergeant. I didn't like my squad leader. They were married. That was unusual, right? It's illegal, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to drop any names, but they didn't like me. I didn't like them, and my partner didn't like me either. I guess you say partner. You know, we were co-drivers.
Okay, yeah.
It was his truck, and I was his co-driver. Although I couldn't drive. And what we drove was HETS, heavy equipment transportation, like the M1 Abrams, big heavy son of a bitches. So they wanted me to air up tires all the time, and I just had to go fuck you attitude, and I'd spend all day airing up a few tires, didn't care. And they tried to get me to break, and it just wouldn't happen. So they were like, drills coming around, and they're like, you got to go. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 2 weeks on camp. You got to go to blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm not going to my first order. I can't go. I said, I got a business to run. I ain't got nobody to cover it. And he starts threatening me with Article 15, kicking me out of the mill. I said, dude, you got to do whatever you got to do. I don't give a fuck. Doesn't matter to me. So let's go talk to the captain. I said, let's go. I don't care. I was at that point that I didn't give a fuck because they were just being cocksuckers to me, and I was just returning the favor as much as I could. I was pretty good at playing the game, you know what I mean, without getting totally kicked out. They tried to threaten me a lot. So we go to the captain. First time I'd ever had a conversation with him. An amazing dude. He's like, why can't you go? I was like, man, I just shits up, and 2 weeks is just, I can't do it. It's just the wrong time. And I was bullshitting mostly, but yeah, I didn't have anybody to run my shop. He said, well, I'll tell you what, can you go with another unit? And I said, when? Named it. I said, absolutely, I'll be there. It's a Brownsville unit. It's a whole nother unit. He said, you're going to be the commander's driver. Lieutenant Moore was going to be the acting commander for the Brownsville unit. And I was like, I'm in. Tell me when to be there. So I show up, so hungover. I had been out. I mean, if I slept 30 minutes, that would have been pretty good. I had my duffel bag in the back of the car. Show up. I'm going to drive this Humvee and drive him to somewhere into Alabama to meet up with this group of people. If you've ever been in a Humvee, the transfer case puts off a shit ton of heat.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I'm driving, and I probably didn't make it an hour and a half into the drive, and I'm falling asleep. I could not keep my eyes open. I don't know if he was asleep, but he was very serious. We had never said a word to each other. There was no talking, no chit-chatting, which is one reason I was falling asleep. I didn't have anybody to keep me up, but I pull over on the side of the interstate, and I said, look, either I've got to sleep or you got to drive, but I can't keep going. I'm going to kill both of us. He's like, switch. So we switched. I'm a E3 at the time. He's looked at it. He never said a word. We drove all the way there, and I slept the entire way. I never woke up. He pulls in, and there's all these people in trucks. I mean, people everywhere, and I'm wiping the shit out of my eyes, and he puts the Hummer in park, and I start to realize these people think I'm the commander. And I'm like, oh, I have fucked up. And he puts it in park, and he said, if you ever fuck me like this again, I don't know what the consequences were going to be, but I was like, brother, I got you. I promise I got you. And so that was the very beginning. And man, I tell you what, I took care of his ass. I was his best buddy. Anything he needed, I was on point. I mean, I would have done anything for him. And we ended up hitting it off after like 3 days. Captain come in. He wouldn't let me smoke in the Hummer because I smoked at the time. My captain smoked. But when he would smoke, he'd give Nathan, you want to say, yes, sir, I'll take a cigarette. So he pissed my lieutenant off. Long story short, we ended up becoming great friends. Come back to Tullahoma. They give me a truck. I ended up having their respect. First, my platoon sergeant. We all ended up becoming friends after a few months, and it was the hardest thing in the world was leaving them because after like 4 years of being with them, you know, you got to earn your way.
Yeah.
And God, it was hard living because I fell in love with every one of my platoon sergeant, my squad leader. It was awesome. I ended up moving to Indiana, but yeah, that was the beginning of my military career. I was awesome after that. No one ever had any problems out of me. When I went to Indiana, I joined a unit in Gary, Indiana, and they said, you can't stay here because you have to fulfill your obligation as an 88 Mike, because I got a bonus, right? It's like $6,000, and I still had a year and a half to go. I was like, well, what do you want me to do? I was in a 12 Bravo demolition, whatever. And I knew they were about to get deployed to Iraq. And I thought, God, if I'm going with anybody, I don't want it to be these guys because this is all kids, 17, 18-year-old kids. And they were wearing like Rambo knives and shit. And I thought, God, I'm used to being around these.
What year was this?
So it was after 9/11. So 2001, 2002.
Okay. When did you enlist?
1997. 1997.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, 1997. And I had to, so yeah, the 12 Bravos, and they were all great, but they were young, and I was used to being around these old dudes. Hats would be like the, nobody cared, where I came from. They're great guys, but they didn't take it so seriously. They were, 90% of them was retirement age, and I had a blast with them. That was in Tullahoma. That was all the guys that hated me in the beginning, but we're becoming friends later on. So they said, you have to go to a new unit, and I said, well, tell me where to go. So it was this, me and this other sergeant started a brand new unit in Valparaiso, Indiana, and I was the only one licensed to drive anything, which was a bus, a big-ass bus, because everything you're licensed are by weight, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was the bus driver, and we went around recruiting other national. So my last 2 years of being in the military, while everyone else was off fighting in Iraq, I'm driving around a big white Bluebird bus in Chicago. That was it. Never got deployed. I really hated that too, because I really thought, I was going to get deployed. But my last day was November the 3rd, 2003, Veterans Day. That was my very last day. It's my last day I got out. That was my whole military career.
Dang.
Wasn't much to really, nothing amazing happened, but some funny shit to me. An unusual military career, I guess. And I did have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I got to do a lot of shit, but I think these stories are better.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mine. So I signed up, or went to boot camp in 2001, early 2001. I was in A school, which is right after boot camp.
AIT for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was gunner's mate A school, where you just learn the basics about being a gunner's mate. Because you can go out there, and specialized schools are called C schools.
Yeah.
So that's where you learn how to work on specific systems. 9/11 happened while I was in C school. Didn't know what the heck was going to happen or what was going on exactly, for a little while. And then...
Well, I bet you get amped, though. Because they get you so fired up. When I got out of the...
Navy's a little different.
Really?
Man.
They had us... Damn, I come out of there ready to kill somebody.
Yeah.
I wasn't as bad as the Marine Corps, but they do. They tear you down, and then they build you back up.
Yeah, and like you said, a certain type of person. Now, granted, when you have... family friends or friends that are in a particular branch, they kind of sway you one way or the other. But just you as a person, you'll generally kind of lean one way or another.
I think I was meant
like
for the Navy.
migrating towards like-minded people, know. And the Navy is, you got some squared away sailors, high and tights, wearing them just like a jarhead, and everything's folded nice and perfectly. And
What percentage do you think has intentions to join the SEALs?
Percentage?
Yeah, you think there's
out of the entire Navy?
Yeah, do you think there's a percentage? Do you think can you pick them out? The people that joined the Navy that their dream was to actually move on to the SEALs,
yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Well, I wouldn't think it would be all of them.
But
Really,
when I was going through,
and I haven't. Part of me was I had these delusional ideas when I was joining the Navy, like I could do the Navy SEALs.
Everybody has a thing of confidence, especially every 18, 19, 20-year-old man.
Yeah.
Is like, I could do that. If I just trained a little harder, which is utter bullshit.
Yeah,
you can't admit that until you're, a little bit older.
Yeah.
Mostly, but...
I think I could have admitted it 1 week into basic training in the Army. I'm thinking, thank God I did not go into, Thank God they would have never picked me, honestly. I struggle to do anything. I'm so lazy. I could do whatever I needed, but maybe everybody hated it, and I was just more honest about it. I was like, this fucking sucks. Setups suck. I didn't enjoy it, but I'm not the type that likes to work out. You do, though.
Yeah, I enjoy working.
And I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No,
I was just curious about that.
But let's say when I was in A school, of course, there's that group of guys that are going to go be SEALs, go EOD, SWIC, diver and stuff like that, and they have their own little special PT group that they go out and do their things with.
Now that's A school. That's after basic training.
Yeah, while we're learning to be gunner's mates, because at that time, excuse me, and things have changed before then and after then. It's hard to keep up with what's legit now. So if anybody wants to go fact check me or whatever, I don't know what's going on now. But you had to go to an A school to learn how to do a job, and it was only certain rates that could go apply to be SEALs or EOD or something.
Yeah.
So gunner's mate was one of them. So you go to your A school, learn how to basically do a job of a gunner's mate, no matter where they may end up at, and then if you pass some of the pre-screenings, to be a SEAL, then you'd have a class at some point after your A school. There's I don't remember what they call it, but there's like an NDOC period, basically, of, okay, you completed your A school, your BUDS class isn't going to go or class up until this time, so it could be a couple months or something like that where you're in this NDOC class. I've heard that a lot of guys drop out while they're in the NDOC class, and I don't know what is in that class, what goes on there, but I know they do a lot of PT stuff and whatnot. A lot of guys drop out there. And then class up for BUDS, and what is it, like 70, 75, 80% drop out. But while I was in A school, out of all the guys that were going, there was only one guy that I know for a fact made it through BUDS and into the teams. And he, surprisingly, he was a guy who was like in his mid-20s. He was an elementary school teacher.
Yeah.
That signed up for the Navy and was like, okay.
No, okay. So that was before 9/11 happened. Mm-hmm. So just the timing was right. So he didn't do it as, as a patriot, like 9/11 had happened, because a lot of people joined.
Right. Of course, after 9/11, you have all these like patriots.
I don't blame him. I think I would have fired up too. I know we did the quotes there, but whatever.
Yeah, everybody's got their own version of that.
Well, I did it because I really thought I had a responsibility. I just thought I had to do something. I thought it was almost a requirement, to just join some. I didn't give a shit what branch of the military you join. Mm-hmm. I just thought, I felt like I just had a responsibility to join something. And maybe that's because my dad was in the military, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. And I think I really honestly needed a little bit of structure in my life, because I was kind of a wild kid, good kid, very good kid, very sweet kid. Never wished anybody harm. I loved everybody, but I was a little wild. So I think I wanted a little structure. I wanted a little discipline, and it was good for me. It was one of the best things I ever did. I wouldn't be afraid if any of my kids decided to join. If they I wish they had an option to let people go through basic training and just allow them to do that. I think it'd be so good for people. Learning to work as a team, it's a totally different experience. Because it's such an egotistical world we live in, and then forcing yourself to accept someone else's ideas to accomplish something is very healthy. Yeah. So swallowing your pride type stuff. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you get checked a lot in that, and that's what I really loved about it.
Yeah, I joined to get out of Iowa, man.
Yeah.
And
you were super landlocked.
Thinking I was like, I'm gonna join the military. Don't know what it is. Don't know what I'm gonna do. But
did you fill them out? This Navy felt good.
Yeah, like I said, when I started talking to all the different branches, the Navy guys were just some regular dudes.
Yeah.
And that's why I went that route. But,
so you joined the Navy. I have to imagine where you was at, you had visions of traveling across the oceans. No?
I mean, I figured it would happen.
But you didn't do that. You ended up being primarily on land. Is that correct?
No. So
what was your job again?
I was a gunner's mate.
Gunner's mate. Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought you said something about bridges or.
Oh, I was gonna be a builder.
Builder. But, yeah. Okay. That's where I lost it.
Yeah. So most of the CBs are on land somewhere. Any Navy installations, whether it's temporary or an actual base, needs building.
Yeah.
Stuff needs to be built, plumbing, all that stuff. Basically anything that you need to build a building in the civilian world.
I'm shocked that the Navy offers that. The Navy offers that's really wild. You would think that would definitely be an Army.
Yeah, but you can't rely on other branches to do stuff. It's
true.
Because then you have too many different chains of command, this and that, and it's just a cluster.
Yeah.
How
many years was you in?
Just over 4.
Yeah.
Just over 4.
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved all the guys I worked with and everything. Wouldn't change anything although there are times where you're like, man, I wish I could have done something else, but then we wouldn't be here, you know. But,
it's funny. I've met some people that were like me. My neighbor that lived right next door to me. I don't want to tell too much. I don't want to brag about it. Well, I'm bragging about it, my neighbor. But he's a pretty fascinating dude. He was a colonel, retired colonel. He flew helicopters. But we had many intoxicated conversations, and I say many. We had enough. We had enough that I really felt like I was starting to get to know him before he moved away. And I really just was fascinated by the guy because he reminded me of so much of me. Like when he joined flight school, he thought he was showing up to something. He showed up in PT uniform. Like he thought he was going to do some PT, and it was flight school for helicopter. He ended up getting the Silver Star. That was pretty incredible. Just an amazing guy. But he just didn't take things seriously. I just don't take things seriously. I'm very laid back. Don't give a fuck. When something needs to be done, I'm very serious about it. I'm obsessive. Yeah. You know, I get tunnel vision about things, but I just don't take nonsense seriously. And I learned that a lot of people that were very successful in the military were very much like didn't give a fuck about dumb shit. You know, they really struggled with.
And that's my biggest. I guess if I had any gripes about it, you know, were the politics in it, and you know, being that was my first experience of being an adult. You know, I thought, oh, I'm gonna get out and I'll go do whatever in the civilian world, and I won't have to deal with politics. And needs to say, there's politics everywhere you go. You know, it's a thing of life. But
it's a good segue.
But you know, I tell people that, I mean, there's no matter what branch, there's guys that are squared away, and you know, guys like that are serious all the time. And it's like, okay, man, I can't be that uptight. You know, it wasn't that. You know, a lot of my life, especially mainly my 20s. You know, I didn't give a fuck about a lot of shit. I was just, I'm here for the party, man.
Yeah.
But work hard, play hard. You know, as you know, I'm not a very punctual person. You know, that took some time. But I'm just like, you know, unless it's work or something like very specific, like showing up for a wedding or something like that, you know, it's like, okay, that I have to be on time for that. But I'm just, you know, kind of
look, man,
take it as it is.
I was never on time to anything in my life. Something happened. I don't know what it was. I mean, it was after the military, during the military. I don't know. I got to a point that I was afraid of disappointing, and this is a personal flaw inside of me. I worry about disappointing people. Like, God, if I have any respect for you at all, I'm going to fucking deliver. It's just the way it is. I mean,
I was gonna say, because you are like not just early,
it's fucking
everything, but you are like way early.
I know, because I suffer from anxiety.
Which, I mean,
I've recently learned that it's actually, if you're going to be early, you need to park down the road, because it's rude apparently to show up too early.
Depending on what it is,
maybe.
But I mean, with our group though, it's not too bad. Or like showing up to dinner or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh well, I'm here.
What's fucked up
early.
is it doesn't. I wished I was the person that was on time or a few minutes late, because it's a psychological thing for me. The emotional experience, the anxiety that I suffer, and it could be anything. It could be anything. It's so weird. If I have to meet anybody, it doesn't have to be important. If I know that I'm supposed to be there at 4, and it only takes 2 minutes to get there, for 30 minutes, I need to leave. I mean, I'm just like that. If I need to do something, it's not necessarily being on time. It's if I have to do something, I just get anxiety until it's done. It just fucks with me, and I wish I could balance that out a little bit more. But whatever. Pros and cons to everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
But it's so weird.
It's not that big of a deal.
I'm cool with anytime somebody's late. Doesn't bother me. I'm like, fuck. I wish I could just not give up. I take things too seriously. I don't know what it is. It's a psychological thing in me, and I suffer from anxiety. I think I talk about it a lot on here, that if I suffer from anything, I'm an anxious person. Not necessarily... When I say I suffer from anxiety, I think I anticipate. And if there's something that needs to be done, I want to do it because I get so hyper focused. I'm very OCD when there's something that I should be doing, whether it's coming to your house, meeting someone for a drink. I'm sitting there 20 minutes early and I'm happy. Like that makes me happy because if I wasn't there, I would be sitting at home anxious. And let me tell you, the countless issues it's caused in my marriage, like it's incredible. My wife is, I need to learn to just chill. And I am learning. I am learning and you know, it caused so many fights earlier in our marriage, but anymore now I'm learning. I'm getting smarter. I'm learning. You got to tell her 30 minutes, you know, you got to throw the time off, but for the most part I think I'm practicing just not giving a fuck because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, be more like your younger self.
Yeah, what matters? What matters? Conversations, you know. And if I'm anxious, if I'm pissed off, are we going to get a good conversation from that? You know what I mean? Can you even have a rational thought when you're sitting there releasing all these fucking weird hormones that are, you know, got you on edge? So I'm learning. I'm getting better. Life's about practice, man. And the whole thing about this podcast is practice.
Yeah,
practice being better.
Yeah, just trying to be better people, you know, in any aspect.
I figured that's how we'd end up into something like this because where do we usually go? What do we usually end up on? I don't think either one of us are heavily into politics, but
we're not. We're very opinionated about it. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's. I mean, everybody's got an opinion about politics.
But we don't. But our opinions,
Yeah.
the way I think you and I have always communicated, it's always been a safe space. Maybe
Yeah.
we're like-minded though.
Well,
Maybe
I think-
we're in an echo chamber. I don't know.
When we do talk politics, I think we dive a little deeper
Yeah.
than the surface, which I think a lot of people are like surface level.
Yep.
You know, just on surface level, like
Yep.
their communication, their talks and thoughts and everything are just like. It's like you and I want to know. Okay, let's go deeper than that.
I don't think
Why-
we want to.
Why is this an issue? Yeah, well, inside somewhere,
Yeah.
I do. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, you know,
why
I-
is it like this?
Well, I don't know if it's a conscious thing, but curiosity is something that I think is presented to us. That question is something inside of us represented and said, hey, well, why does this? I don't know if I consciously think these things. These ideas are presented and I sit there and get stuck thinking about it. But then, you know, since I'm stuck, we'll talk about it. Mm-hmm. Part of me wishes I didn't. You know what I mean? Part of me wishes I could just cruise through life and not think about any of these things because some of them can take you down a hopeless road.
You
It feels
get down
like
these like rabbit holes of just like, well, what this and what this, and honestly, I think maybe that's probably why like some people are like conspiracy theorists or something like that. And kind of the reason why after I got out of the military, I didn't want a government job. You know, I didn't want to get into the realm of, you know, and maybe I watched too many TV shows and movies, you know, where there were spies, like double agents, and you know, this person screwing this person over because of this person, and it's just like, you know, there's so many degrees of something. It's like you can never get down to the actual truth. There's more than one truth.
Oh, there's just so many.
Like, because I'm a problem solver.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if you start taking me down a road, like I want to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, and if there's just other questions that keep popping up, then it's like, okay, bam, you're trying to figure it all out. But I think in order to figure things out, you do have to take them one at a time. You know, it's like solve one problem. It's like a big math problem, right? Mm-hmm. Like you see a long math problem on a board. And a lot of people are like, crap, I don't know what the answer is. These people say that the answer should be this. I'll just take that. It's like, well, how did we get there? It's like,
you can't just jump to the end.
Break it down.
It can be overwhelming, though. And I don't look at it like a math problem on a board. I'm presented with a problem, you know, in my conscious. Or you present a question. You say, well, what about this? What about that? Or maybe you just tell me your opinion on something. I'm like, oh. And then I have to calculate that simple, you know, we can process that. But when you see it on a board, it can be overwhelming just seeing this algebraic expression. But if you just take one step at a time, it's almost like this. troubleshooting. That's what'd you say? What was you're a problem solver? That's troubleshooting. And it's the why analysis. You know, some people call it the 5 why analysis. It could be an infinite why. But it's there's a question, and then you work on that question, and then once you have an answer, you say, well, why? Most people get an answer, and that's surface level, and they stop with that. Oh, it's because of this. Well, those are symptoms. You know what I mean? You can't settle on symptoms, and we typically do. Doctors far too often medicate people based on symptoms. And it's causing a huge problem. Well, psychologically, that's happening. Politically, that's happening. You know, everywhere we look, people are getting lazy. And then the curiosity in people is just gone. And if you look at our media, it's not even surface level debating. Like, it's oh, God, I don't know if I can get into it because it's so fucked up. Because these people, hold on. I don't know if I'd ever talk about politics because you can alienate everyone just by telling who you voted for. You know what I mean?
Well, these things, everything you just mentioned isn't even politics. You know,
this is human psychology.
It's just media. Yeah, because take the politics out of media and you still see the same thing. You know, same type of problems and everything.
So I've been studying something, not studying really, but I stumbled upon something called cognitive dissonance. And it is the reason why, supposedly, it's what I believe, it's what some other smart person believes, and it was presented to me and it made sense. Cognitive dissonance is when really smart people can believe a very crazy thing, like conspiracy theories. I mean, you could literally say the entire media is, all of it sounds like conspiracies to me. I mean, I don't want to get into any too specifics. I don't mind if you want to go down those roads, and I'd love to talk about them, but I generally don't like anything about politics because I don't believe in it. I don't believe that anyone that wants to spend any more time than they feel is... If you go into politics, it had better be because you don't have a choice. I believe that I can provide a tremendous amount of value here. And I want to... But the problem is most people consume more than they produce in life, and politicians overstay their welcome. You should give that spot up. Consciously, you should say, you know what? Maybe I've spent too much time here, right? As a congressman, as a senator, as a mayor, as whatever political position you hold, I think you should be responsible as an individual. And it doesn't matter what the public wants. It doesn't matter that because the public just wants someone to take responsibility because people don't want to take responsibility.
Right. No, they want a finger to point.
Yeah.
Or they want something.
They want someone to believe in.
They want someone to believe in or blame.
Yeah, because the population is
a
sheep.
Majority of them.
The vast majority is a sheep, and man, sometimes I just want to be a sheep, you know. But sometimes you got to be a Great Pyrenees, you know, the sheep herder. But I think when you have served your time, you should let some new ideas in. The problem is that that's just not a reality. That's why I've given up on politics, because to be people that should be into politics. People that could do a really good job.
Don't want to.
You're goddamn right.
It's because,
sorry about that. I didn't mean to say that, but you nailed it. Yes.
It's because they're not public servants anymore. Well, yeah. They're not public servants. They're
leadership's
there
a huge responsibility.
For power, you know. Yeah. And I mean, we see it in movies. How many movies, you know, especially like medieval times and stuff like that.
Yeah, since
like
the
where
beginning.
It's like, oh, the people want you to be their king, or the people want you to be their queen, and it's like, well, I'm. You always hear that, like, oh, I'm not a man worthy of it, or blah, 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 blah.
There's a bell curve, right? In any new society that's being formed, and I'm just thinking about this off the top of my head, but in the beginning, when we're trying to form something as a tribe, right, as a small group of people that we're trying to reestablish some kind of normalcy, people put their egos aside and their opinions, and they say, okay, well, what's best for us as a group?
Yeah.
And certain individuals get pushed to the front and say, listen, we want you to take responsibility for this. And they're like, shit, man. Taking responsibility in a leadership role is not a fun place to be. It's why I avoid it at all costs, because I take it seriously, so seriously that if something happened to someone under my watch, I'd have a hard time living with myself. I mean, it would haunt me for the rest of my life. And people that are and I'm not talking about just politics, but any form of leadership, whether you're talking about a gas station all the way up through restaurants, doesn't matter, corporations, and then in government, anybody that seeks leadership scares me. They've always, for a long time now, I've been thinking about people that seek that leadership role, and their whole plan in life was to be in charge. That's a very dangerous person a lot of times. Sometimes they get lucky and they end up being pretty decent leaders, but I think the best leaders are chosen. Or they get to a point that there's like, I have a responsibility to serve my community. I'm going to do it for a while, and then I'm going to pass that on. Maybe to stabilize something. But that's just not the reality in politics now. And now it's people go to college. They start off in early elementary, junior high schools with the idea of being a politician, a career politician. And that scares me. I don't think that's good for a society. So that bell curve, right, we're on the other side of it, which is where a society starts to crumble. And it takes a while. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, next year or two, but things that are happening are irreversible. Once it's happened, because I was thinking about it recently, it might as well be a fight between two people. Once you get in that echo chamber of your own mind or the group you're in, and you start looking for that positive feedback, I call it a negative feedback loop. But, people are trying to hear their own opinions fed back to them. They want to hear. It's not healthy. So, anyways, it goes to a point that two individuals end up fighting. And it took the fight for them to say, what are we doing?
How did we get here?
Yes, what happened? But it takes some kind of... It could be catastrophic. It could be detrimental. It could have been death. It could have been an accidental murder, So, but when I see that, the same philosophies and mentalities are happening on the grand scale between politicians, and two individuals have the power over 90% of all nuclear weapons. And that just seems so insane to me, Anyways, I just politics in general, I'm over it. Anybody that wants to that's holding a position of office, they should be backing out and letting somebody else in. But that's just not going to happen. It's going to have to get to a point that it kind of collapses, I think. On some level, I'm not saying that we're all going to go hungry and the lights are going to go off. I'm sure it could, but
they should be, we in our democracy, people are elected.
Popularity contest,
and
based on corporations.
Like we're fed who to vote for.
Yeah.
So it's just to play devil's advocate on a set of term limits, which can be a good thing. But what if your mayor, happened to be a really awesome mayor, that man or woman was able to get things done, to the best, that best pleased the majority of the people of the community, because you never please everybody, but if they did a really good job and they adapted with the times, it's like,
as a hypothetical.
Mm-hmm.
As a hypothetical, I guess I would go for it. For instance, George Washington, they wanted him to continue,
right?
And he's like, no. I think at a certain point it becomes irresponsible, because I think you end up isolating yourself from the reality of what's really happening in the world. You cease to become a citizen, and you cease to experience everyday life as everyday people, and you get up into this. I call it an echo chamber. And all these people are literally Republican, Democrat, all of them. I can't stand none of them. Anyone that has overstayed their welcome, I'm done, right? Because they will say whatever they can say to stay in office. And that, to me, is just insane. They should be looking for a way out. And then if the people are still trying to force them back in and they're not profiting, these people are multimillionaires.
Oh, yeah.
That's inherently wrong.
Yeah.
There's so many good quotes about if you go into politics for money, then you're... I boil everything down to two things. Yes, I know life is full of gray and it's not so black and white, but the goal in life, if you want to be happy, truly, truly happy, be productive. Produce more in life than you consume. And what these individuals are doing is consuming. And that's how they seek they're trying to buy their happiness. They're not happy people. They're just not. I wouldn't believe for 1 second that they're happy. But look at most people around are trying to buy their happiness. They're getting that dopamine hit by purchasing something. And power can be a form. You know, I think I think if they had it to do all over again and they got away from all the power, because I'm sure that's you're afraid to let it go. I think they stay in those positions out of fear of letting go, you know. But whatever, man. I don't fully understand it. I'm saying I do not trust it. I don't trust it. But the problem is that you have all these corporations that are paying to keep people in a position, and then good leaders they will never have a chance. Not in the way it's rigged right now, because it's rigged 100%. Doesn't matter which side you're on, you're rigged. Anybody that's worth a shit will never stand a chance.
Well, I mean, and that's why in any large and some small, or corporations, organizations, businesses, the term, oh, I got tired of the politics with this company, or whatever. It's, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just isn't something that's like, oh, well, we'll it's a bad thing about people, playing a game to, for their own personal gain, well, why'd we call it politics?
Yeah.
Well, because it came from politicians.
Well, I actually, so when we go through the process of why I do a lot of, I don't mean to, but I do a lot of, I don't know what you would call it, thought exercises, and which is the why. You just sit there. I can spend hours doing that, and ultimately I always come back to, oh, we deserve it. We deserve everything we bitch about, right? Everything that's wrong in life is so easy to change if we, as a group, right, can put our egos aside and say, hold on. But we fight over the most basic thing, like a 6 inches of a property line. People would debate and argue and lose life over it. It's incredible what people are willing to die for. And
it's incredible what they're not willing to die for.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, it's whatever we get, we deserve as a society. We really do. And that's just my opinion on it. Now, I'm not saying every individual deserves it, but as a society,
generally, as a society, as a whole, majority. And
it's the cycle that's happened since the beginning of time, I would imagine. Once even in monkeys, a troop can only have like 70, 80 monkeys. Yeah. After that, they break off.
Break off and branch out.
Yeah, and it's just animal. We're still animals, and then we kind of forget that we're still, just because we have spoken word and we're evolving as a species, but still that animal instinct is not very old. Like, we haven't evolved away from an ego.
Well, and the fact that people think, oh, well, we're the most intelligent, blah, 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 things are different for us, blah, blah. It's when you get to that point, that's arrogance. The fact that you think something can't happen to you or to us as a species because we're at the top of the food chain, that's arrogance.
Ignorance, arrogance, yeah. It's something I learned years ago that made human beings special. Can I try some of that Woodford?
Yeah.
It's good. I'm not much of a bourbon guy. I'm more of a whiskey
guy.
Jameson. Yeah, that's what I like.
Have you tried Green Spot?
I don't know. You gave it to me?
I'll get you a
You
bottle.
guys, no, look, every time I'm around you guys, y'all always have a new bottle to take, and everybody's taking sips. It's always good, but I'm usually got a solid buzz by the time y'all break out a bottle. So everything tastes good at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, where we were at was the difference. So you were talking about why. Okay, so you got to know, my favorite word ever is why. It's the only word, in my opinion, that matters for us. I mean, all words have meaning. Well, not all words, but words have meaning. But look, why it's the only word. It's an idea. It's curiosity. It's the reason why we have evolved into what we are. Whether it's from caveman or Adam and Eve, I don't give a shit how you believe, but the word why is an idea of, it's the basics and curiosity. It's where desire comes from, in my opinion. So
it also comes into, not to interrupt.
No, you're good.
Depending on how it's answered, you can
pull that a little closer.
Depending on how it's answered, you can tell a lot by a person in how it's answered.
And that's the thing. It keeps going until you get to what we call the root cause. Like it should, like why keeps going until you get to something in the maintenance world we call the root cause. Root cause analysis is a series of whys until you get to the fundamental truth. If you've seen it, when something breaks, you can say, oh, that's the direct cause, like an engine breaks or a glass, your glass, it doesn't, a marriage breaks, anything. Anytime something breaks, that's the direct cause. Whatever broke is the direct cause, but that's not the root cause. There may have been a ton of symptoms that were, didn't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. I hear something, a noise, something in my relationship's off. Those are all symptoms. Mm-hmm. We debate about those. We argue about those. We get divorced over those. We lose jobs over those. We fight over symptoms, which is an inherent flaw in our species. Then the direct cause happens, and we learn a lot from the direct cause, but that's not the root cause. The root cause is something different. It's deeper, and it's because we don't have we've lost the habit of it. A lot of our curiosity's gone as a civilization. We're not as curious as we used to be. And it may be because of our education system. It could be a lot of reasons. And life's just too easy for us now. We can just move on from it. We're not as curious as we used to be because we can just distract ourselves with a cell phone or book.
Yeah, the answer's right in the palm of our hand or in our pocket.
Yeah. Well, even books, I think at one time may have been looked down upon as a distraction. You know what I mean? Like I can see how books may have been a negative thing. Comic books were looked down on. Anything new is looked down on. So the point I'm trying to say is that there's been there's a flip side to every coin. I love technology, but the flip side is there's problems that we don't quite understand. But what I was trying to say is why. That's what separates us as a species. I don't care. Us as a species is different than every other species that's ever existed because we're the only one that's ever asked why. Every species stopped evolving because they never cared why. There's curious animals out there, but they never they don't possess the ability to say, well, why? Like it's an idea, not the word. It's a concept. It's a way of thinking, and we identify it with a word called why. But anyways, that's what separates us from all the other species. And I know we were talking about monkeys dividing. After 70, the number, a sustainable number for monkeys is around 70. Maybe it's 80. And after that, it fractions. Mm-hmm. Why? That's a good thing to think about. But it's the same thing happens in humans.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great thing to think about. Yeah. But like anything else in life, it can be a negative.
Asking too many whys?
Asking too many whys. Like why? Really, really going down there.
Why?
And it could because whys, just like anything else in our lives, can become obsessive.
Oh, I'm there.
And once you're obsessed, I mean,
you may be right.
You can be infatuated with something, but it's not going to overtake your life. Once it overtakes your life and then your relationships, whether they're marriages, friendships, relationships with your children, drinking, eating habits, your health. Once those things start being affected, then it's becoming a little too serious, in my opinion.
Well, no, you're right. So there's an art to this, because what I'm talking about is a skill. Being able to ask why and getting to the root cause does require skill. And if it's getting more complicated, then you're asking the wrong questions. You've misled yourself. It should always be getting simpler. And if you start going down this delusional, and what people do is they get in an echo chamber. They start feeding these ideas, and anyways, I don't fucking understand it all. I mean, it's very complicated, but I think if you're doing it properly, I think it's always positive. I think. For me, it has been. It has been. I mean, I'm telling you, man, I've been through a lot with my marriage and my kids, but why was it's a, I don't know if it's a cornerstone, but it's definitely a strong value in my life. But I don't know where I'm going with all this, but I love the word why. I'm obsessed with it. I can have 1,000 conversations.
It's how we learn.
Yeah, it is.
It's
how we evolve. It's how we have evolved.
Psychologist. psychologists don't give us advice about what to do. They don't.
shouldn't.
They don't feed us the information, right? They get us to acknowledge what
Let
it
us-
is that we need to fix, what we need
Let
to
us
change.
discover it for ourselves.
Discover
That's the secret.
the why.
So I'm so glad we've never actually said that before. But so through my process of learning, because I was always so I was always so quick to tell people why. Oh, it was because of this. Well, that was me being insecure. It was an insecurity in me, and I've noticed it's an insecurity in human nature. When we say, "Do you know why we do this?" and if they don't answer within 3 seconds, well, it's because of blah blah blah. Well, it's because we have an ego and we want to appear smart, and I did. I wanted to appear smart because my whole life I thought I was stupid.
Right, and I see one of those, but maybe some people, or maybe you, for example, in those cases, wanted to be helpful. It's not necessarily about appearing smart to gain anything, but maybe it's to gain respect. But you really wanted to be helpful, and that's in your heart.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's what I learned about you after a while.
I've learned. Well,
we talked about this like in the beginning when we first met. I was a little taken back. I was like, man, I really don't know about this guy.
Most people
Like,
think that.
I'm like, and then I found out like you were genuine, and everything you did, because you're a very positive guy. You'll boost everybody up. You know how to make people feel good. And that's what I love about you. But I didn't know how genuine it was.
Yeah.
And when I figured out, and there wasn't like one particular time or anything like that, but over time, I'm like, this guy genuinely wants to see people do well. He loves to see the people around him better themselves, and he betters himself through them.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you know why? Because it feels good.
Yeah.
It's manipulation at its core, and I don't have any problem with that. Like, I see manipulation as a positive thing. It can be negative, but manipulating dough into a pizza, manipulating dough into a biscuit. You know what I mean? Manipulating a conversation into something positive.
Well, it's a motive behind something.
Yeah. And when you feel good, I feel good. Because I've kind of figured out for me, and I've always been a positive person, or at least attempted to be, because, man, everybody's got fucking problems. Nobody wants to hear mine, right? Unless you come at me and want to hear it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But when it comes to a lot of things, I think for me, when I was younger, I figured out the secret is if I stop telling people why and I ask why and let them discover it for themselves, it's much more productive. Like you were talking about a psychologist, whether they don't tell us why, and I started realizing, no, if I quit giving people the answer, I'm shortchanging the process. Most people go through life hearing information and thinking, okay, this is how I have to apply it. This is my college degree. This is what I do. I'm an engineer. I'm an architect. I'm a mechanic. I'm whatever. And they can regurgitate philosophy. They can regurgitate knowledge, but they don't have any experience, really. Like, a lot of people don't really know what they're talking about. If I asked them why more than 2 or 3 times, they'd be stuck. Well, shit, I don't know. Because they don't understand the fundamentals. And if you can keep asking someone why rather than tell them why, I'm learning that, and it feels fucking good to tell somebody why. It really does. And I call that my ego, satisfying my ego. That's what I say. But if I can keep asking why and let them say, oh, fuck, I know why. Like, they just changed their own life. You didn't. They did.
And they're more likely to retain that information. I mean,
Yes. They will.
People joke
It's
around
burnt.
about stuff that we learned in high school, right? And some people about what they learned in college, and they're like, man, I don't even remember most of it. And why?
Yeah.
Because it was fed to us. Now, not everybody, but there are a lot of teachers and professors out there that take that psychologist approach into letting people figure out the why on their own.
Those are the good ones.
And exactly, those are the good ones. Those are the ones that you remember. I'm a big analogy person, and it's crazy because one of my favorite teachers in high school was really big on analogies. It was a 2-part class, and we had a brainiac, that he knew a lot, and I mean he was a great dude. Both of them were great guys. But he'd spit something out, and our class would just be sitting there like, okay. other teacher, Mr. Nichols, he could see that on our faces. He could hear that with the lack of, response. And he'd be like, okay, class. So, what Mr. Parkhurst was saying here, da-da-da-da-da.
Did he fancy his words up? Was he good with his words?
Who's that?
Mr. Parkhurst.
Parkhurst?
Was this a student?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. They were both teachers.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
Did they give a complicated analogy?
Well,
When you said the class was confused, right?
yeah, Mr. Parkhurst would put something out, and the class might be a little confused.
Yeah.
It might be over our heads.
Yeah.
Our 17-year-old heads. And,
is good.
Mr. Nichols would recognize that, and he'd be like, okay, class, what he called him Parky. What Parky was trying to say here, he's like, imagine this, and he'd always do this. He'd think about it for a second, think about a way to relate to our 17-year-old minds in that time, the mid to late 90s. And then, you'd see those, after Mr. Nichols broke it down for us, in a way that we could understand it. And I mean, those two were like, I don't know, not to go boost them up too high, but they were like Shaq and Kobe. It was a great duo in how they taught, and obviously,
So these two taught together.
Yeah, they taught.
There was a
together.
class with two teachers?
I can't remember the name of the
Wow,
class.
that's interesting.
But it was a lot of history, reading, writing, stuff like that. I can't remember what it was
I've
called.
never heard of a class like that.
But I mean, it was awesome. And,
Typically, what I've learned, when someone gives a complicated answer or a statement, I can say up in the 90 percentile range, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're regurgitating something someone else told them or they read. There's a big difference between knowing something and understanding something.
Well,
And I don't know if that was the dynamic between those two, but so much of my life, people have given me answers they didn't understand. It was the answer they were taught or they read, and they believed this is why.
Well, and some people have with some people, I think it can be that. And with others, I think they just might not have as good or their communication skills might not be as good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And we see it today, especially. I talked to numerous people. Just the other night, I was talking to a couple of people about what their experiences is like. Trying to date in this modern society and their struggles and their problems and stuff like that. And they're a lot younger. Younger.
I want to stop you for a second. I imagine. Thank God I'm not having to date.
Yeah,
how
I said
horrible
same thing.
would
I'm
it
like,
be?
thank God.
Zoom dates? Is that a thing?
Nicole puts up. I don't even know. I don't know. Nor do I really care.
I can see it now.
But
hey, baby, take your mask off.
let me see those lips.
What are you laughing at? Is that hey? Let me ask.
Wait,
A 17-year-old's perspective. What would dating be like right now with the COVID restrictions?
I wouldn't know. Probably horrible.
You're 17. You should know.
Well, I don't have a girlfriend.
Maybe that's an indication of what life is like. He's 17 years old, and he doesn't know what dating's like. Because obviously, you know what I mean? Actually, you've had a girlfriend, though. I mean, he's had a girlfriend, I mean, he's not... Whatever. Times are different. It's really weird. I'm always concerned.
With the pandemic, the pandemic adds a lot of complications that none of us, regardless of age, are prepared for. So, aside from all that, though, we're, as adults, we're not much different when it comes to relationships.
No.
Than a high schooler.
Oh, yeah. No, listen.
Because where do most people meet or start dating, in areas of convenience? In high school, obviously, it was kids you went to high school with.
Yeah.
Why didn't you date somebody from a different high school? Well, because your interactions with them were fairly limited.
Yeah.
Now, how many people do you see dating within their workspace or within their church or other things that they may go to on a regular basis? And it's because of the convenience that's there. They're not going, and not anybody should go out looking for it. Mm-hmm. But if you're limited in your groups, say you have a church group, you have a work group, you have a rec league group, whatever it is, the more groups that you are
Associate
involved with, then that
more opportunity.
opens up. Yeah, the more opportunity you have. It's hard for anybody, regardless of, of how much they do, to just go up and strike up a conversation with a total stranger.
Well, dating's hard because it requires social proof. And just being a person in life is hard because it requires social proof. And social proof, and this is one thing I've been fascinated about with psychology, is the choices we make, and the way we act, personalities we create, depending on which group we're in, because we have different characters we use. And I mean, we know when to be funny. We know, it's just we know how to fit in, and we always try to be as close to as organic as possible. But I know how to be more stimulating and a little carefree. And in these conversations, you're getting the real me. But in certain groups, depending on what it is, I may have to be entertaining or whatever. And it's just the way it is. As a bartender, you know how to navigate that and benefit your situations. So what I'm saying is social proof. I don't know why I brought it up, but that's really ultimately what dating is. It's the reason why guys lied to their buddies about how many blowjobs they got. And we go back to tribes, when people shot bows at each other, and they lied about how many girls they slept with. It was because they were trying to earn the respect of the men around them, so that when a female walked by, the men around them didn't make fun of them. They wanted to know how. So they showed a tiny bit of respect. The female felt and knew that something was different about this guy. He's respected. You understand? So that's why. And women are doing the same thing. It's the reason why women will lie about the same things, but in reverse, because women are so judgmental. If a woman does anything, their own breed will attack them. Whore. You know what I mean? They're super critical of a female, and men are not that way. We because it's all about procreation, breeding, yada yada. But when a woman does anything like a man, women will talk shit about that woman. Does that make sense?
Well, and I feel like yes, to an extent, but people do that with they give their friends more leniency.
Friends, yes.
Yeah.
Friends, 100%.
Their close group, their circle, their whatever you want to call it, and people judge others more. I said this a while ago, and it did pertain to politics in a sense, but it also pertains to the everyday average civilian American person in general. And I can only speak for Americans because I don't know exactly what it's like in other countries. Things are a little bit different in some places that I've been, my experiences, but I never lived there for an extensive period of time, so I can't speak on it. But in America, why is it, and not all of us do this, but why is it that a lot of people hold strangers to a higher standard than they do their own circle of friends?
Why is it people hold strangers to a higher standard than they... Is it a higher standard? That's a good question.
So
I don't think
for example,
so you're saying we're more judgmental to the people outside of our circle.
Somewhat, yeah.
We tend to judge people outside of our circle.
So for
I've never heard it asked that way.
A group of women, for example, if a girl outside of that circle is going around sleeping with people,
yeah.
And
Joe Blow says,
but
I think I like her. The chicks will be like, oh, she's a whore.
Yeah.
Her close circle of friends don't do that. The circle
but
outside
they're like, oh, if she's in that circle, hey, she's just out there living her life.
Yeah.
Or if somebody cheats.
Well,
like that's one of the main ones. If somebody cheats, outside of the circle, that's a horrible, horrible thing, and I can't believe that anybody would do that. But if it's within their circle,
I think
they know the background and the story a little bit more. Not necessarily everything, but they know a little bit more, and they start to say, well, she was dealing with a lot, or he was dealing with a lot. What they had to deal with. They're like, it's not right, but, and they start making excuses.
But anytime you say but,
yeah, exactly, they
you
start
fucked
making
it all
excuses for their cheaters within their circle. But outside, they're a lot more judgmental and quick to say, I would not associate with that person.
I'm glad you brought it up because it got me thinking about something that I spent a lot of time on, I don't know, maybe 3 to 6 months ago, and it was what it was to be judged. What is judgment? I was really trying to break it down. What is it to be judged? And I felt like I come to a pretty good understanding. I don't think I've talked about it on here or to anybody. I think it was just something I was excited about when I kind of come to a conclusion. And I think it's that, to judge, to direct, to redirect attention, right? To build myself up by cutting someone else down, to make fun of. Anyways, I was thinking about judgment in this way. And I don't know if I'm answering the question that you asked, but I think it goes hand in hand. And I thought, well, what is it to be judged? I don't know that I've ever been directly judged by an individual and it been, I could say, life-changing or horrible. I've been judged by an old lady or an old, someone because I was driving too fast and they yelled at me when I went by, right? Or I did something dumb and they're like, you stupid ass mother, slow down, right? I was judged. But it was direct. It was to me, and I knew what they meant. I knew I was wrong, and I was okay with it. But I started thinking about what judgment was. And judgment that has the most effect on us seems to be indirect judgment. It's not, I think of it in churches. I don't want to knock on churches, but you could think of it as your school, your church, your environment, your corporate environment. It doesn't matter. If someone talks shit about someone else, you think to yourself, oh, shit. Do I do that? So it's like I think the worst thing in life is ambiguity. That question in our mind, that thing that we play in our mind, oh shit, do we do that? Do they think that about us? Like that unanswered question, like we have to know. It's what drives us crazy. When someone cheats, when something happens, our ego won't be satisfied until we know every little detail, until we know. And I think that's what is happening in judgment is the unknown. Does someone else believe this about me? When you're in a church and they say, so-and-so hasn't paid their tithe, or, so-and-so's doing this they're going to the movies and they shouldn't.
Well, and it's they're passing judgment.
Passing judgment is more detrimental. More detrimental than being judged. Yeah. Being judged is okay. I don't like you.
I'm fine with that.
Right? But it's indirect. They're talking like you don't know who to trust. Like, does that make sense? When people, when I hear someone talking shit about someone, nope.
Well, and I don't even think that is judgment necessarily.
It isn't? What is it?
So when somebody's talking shit about somebody, I generally think, you know what, it's not always, but a lot of times it's because that person might have an insecurity and...
The individual saying...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Well, I think that's where judgment comes from.
They're trying to bring it down. But I don't think that's necessarily judgment. Judgment is that person's honest perception. What they vocalize could be different than their honest perception because people lie, or people want to put on a front, whatever. But judgment is basically your opinion based on your perception and what your perception is.
As long as it's direct, I'm good with it.
Do you know? Because like that person speeding, you're an asshole. You're putting people's lives in danger. Right? Because your perception is that they're just driving recklessly. Mm-hmm. You don't know the why. Now, say that man or woman is speeding up because they found out their child was just in an accident. And that's why driving. All of a sudden, your judgment changes because your opinion changes because, you know why. Like, oh, gosh, I'd be doing the same thing. I'd be doing the exact same thing.
I think what we're showing is it's complicated.
Yeah.
That life is not black. Life is not white. Mm-hmm. Life is gray. It's to what degree?
Very gray. And
to what degree? But when it comes to judgment, as long as it's direct and it's to me, Nathan, you fucked up. I've been judged. Nathan, I don't like the way you do something.
That's not necessarily a judgment.
It's a hard word to identify then if we can't agree on that.
If you fucked up, right?
To be judged, is an opinion.
Like I said, yeah, judgment is an opinion.
Isn't it hard? Isn't this hard though?
Based on the facts that you know, right? Mm-hmm. But to say, hey, Nathan, you fucked up. It
was their opinion.
You fucked up your yard. You know, you know, if you didn't do this, your yard was gonna fail.
Yeah.
You know, that's just a fact. You know, it's not me passing judgment. You know, maybe it was because you were lazy. Maybe it was because you had too much stuff on your plate. You know, whatever it was. Maybe you didn't have enough money to have a lawn care company come out here. You know, that's judgment as to why that it failed. But it's the fact that your yard failed is just a fact.
Yep.
That's it.
Well, okay. I'm okay with that. I don't think, as long as it's direct and people are honest. When I say honest, it's not giving your opinion to someone. It's giving your opinion to the someone that matters. And that's okay. As long as you're willing to look at someone and say, hey, listen, I think you fucked up. This is my opinion. This is my judgment. Or, hey, I think you're great.
Oh, yeah.
I think you're amazing. That's still my opinion. It's how I've judged you. But if I say, CT, this motherfucker ain't worth a shit, right? Now I've done something to you. I've indirectly judged someone, and I've placed doubt in your mind. I say, this motherfucker likes a gladiator. Who the fuck drives a gladiator? Well, CT drives a gladiator. And now, subconsciously, it's like, shit, should I be driving a gladiator? And I know that's ridiculous, but that's the first thing that I could think of.
Right. But there are certain things to everybody where at some point
we can relate to.
It's
because we've done it too.
It's going to cause doubt in them. It's going to alter their perception.
That's what I'm talking about. That's when I say it's
alter their perception
talking shit
and their future opinions and judgment.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately what I had rendered down was indirect people being bitches, for a lack of a better word, for not just telling I don't if I ever talk shit about someone else and it wasn't in a joke. Well, even jokes are dangerous because you know what I mean. You can say shit about, like, if I hope someone calls me out if I ever get caught talking negatively about someone that wasn't like, hey, CT, I need to tell you about so and so, right? I wasn't looking for advice. I just want to talk shit about them to make myself feel better, look better. That's what I see as a negative judgment. And that's what I was talking about. People talking shit about other people to make themselves shine. And that's what we were talking about, females or males talking shit about other males. I mean, it's part of human nature. And I think I've boiled it all down to an ego. That desire to be perceived as something.
Or acceptance.
Yeah, it is. That's social acceptance. What do I call it? Social proof. To be accepted. That's our only desire as a species, is to fit in somewhere. We're all trying to fit in. And if anyone does anything mean, it's because out of fear. They want to fit in. And I actually got to where I'm not mad at people anymore. It doesn't matter what you say or what you do. If it's in a negative format, I typically tend to feel sorry for you because you have an insecurity within you. That's the way I see it now. It's not that I'm like, I don't harbor any negative feelings for people anymore. It's like, oh shit, you're just really insecure. I'd subconsciously think that, you know, and therefore I feel like I'm growing as a human, as a person. I'm evolving to the point that I'm not offended when someone has an opinion about me. Because if you couldn't tell me yourself, you're just insecure, and that's you. You're still growing. Yeah. You're still growing as an individual, and we're all at different levels.
Well, and honestly, if you're a good person, anybody's opinion of you, you know, if it's not a good one, well, I mean, we'll just take our relationship for example. You know, like my opinion of you wasn't bad. But it wasn't good.
Well, and I can say people understand, though.
It just took me longer to get to know you, to form a better opinion. A better opinion, and I can admit, like, okay, I was wrong in my first opinion of you,
but it was healthy. It was important,
right?
Because look, man, anyone that is coming in bragging, well, I'm very careful not to brag on people, because anytime someone talks very highly of me that I don't really know, scares me. That's how con artists work. Anytime someone's trying to make you feel good, they have something to gain. And I'm very leery.
Sometimes.
I know, but typically that is how it works. If someone is trying to play on your emotion and make you feel good about yourself, you need to be careful. For instance, you said I was a very positive person and you were a little leery, right? And I think that's important, that you are intelligent enough to say, what is his motive? What does he have to gain? And then you come to the conclusion, oh, he likes to feel good about this or that, or you know what I mean? He's profiting by trying to be a good person, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Accepted. Because I was an outsider. You didn't know me. You were in a tribe. You were in a group. You were in a clan. And everyone is. Everyone is running in these micro communities. That's what's happening.
MCs. I just watched a show,
Yeah.
a little podcast about that.
Yeah, it's what's happening. It's a micro community. We all have them. We all have a tribe because we are tribalistic creatures. When you watch football, you're doing that because you're a tribalistic creature. You
Yeah.
want to identify with a group. And that's war. That's our modern day war. Baseball, you know, the old days was gladiators. That was we identified with a gladiator to live vicariously through this gladiator because we're warriors. We really
we
are.
want to be warriors.
Well,
yeah.
it hasn't been bred out of us. We haven't evolved past that. And we may be 10,000 years away from being what we're trying to virtue signal, right? You should be this, you should be that.
It's nature.
Yes, it's going to take time. These things are going to take time if we don't destroy it before we get there. And I'm very impressed with the human species. Everybody says we suck. I don't mind that we have to fall back and half-ass kill.
We're complicated.
We are
We're
complicated. Yes. Anytime you have the ability to say why, you're a complex creature. Just accept that. But how was I getting that? It was okay. So tribalism. So you and the Jeep crew. So Greg, I'll tell. That's how we all became friends. With a Jeep for me, I used to laugh at people that invested. When I would see Greg's green Jeep, I'd kind of be like, "What the fuck's up with this guy? Has he got nothing better to do with his money or time?" Like I never consciously had that full thought, but that's like an instinct you have.
I guess
right?
I've always been like, kind of I'm like I consider like a diplomat, right?
You
I
are
travel
very
between
moderate.
the tribes.
Dude, you've done that all night. You've always been that way.
You know,
you try to be very diplomatic.
But to me, it's that, you know, since you brought that up real quick, you know, people. I actually had a conversation the other day about this with somebody. You know, because our culture, you know, we started off with this. Hey, it's okay to be overweight. It's okay to be this. It's okay to be that, right? It's okay to be all these other things, right? That aren't like on the cover of magazines. But why is it okay to ridicule, criticize, make fun of people of success?
Yep.
Or people in positions of success? You know, oh, that guy's got a lifted truck. Oh, he must have a little dick.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got a super fast car. He must have a little dick.
That's a good point.
You know, it's like, why does everything got to relate to a little dick?
And I
it's
actually
like that's just what that person likes, man.
Yeah,
Like,
and I get it now.
just it's all right.
And I threw myself under the bus there. I don't think I ever had an opinion on someone. I actually admired it, to be honest with you. I remember the first Jeep I ever admired was Jade's. Like, I know there was other Jeeps I admired, but the first one I remember, if I look back, it was Jade's. I'd walk outside, I'd see Jade's Jeep is over at the Goat, and I'd be like, damn, that's good. I'd seen these gas tanks on the back. I thought, that's kind of badass. And honestly, I was envious. If I had to tell the truth, if I ever had a negative opinion, if I would have, and I haven't, I would have never vocalized something like that because I'm just intelligent enough not to give my opinion on stuff like that. But, you know, you want to crack jokes at other people's expenses. That's the insecurity in us.
And that's the thing, too. It's like saying that maliciously, you know, tells me that you have a sense of insecurity somewhere.
Yeah, that's it.
You know,
You nailed
but when you joke about it, it's just a joke, man. You know, especially being in the military.
Yeah.
We joked about a lot of stuff that a lot of people might not find funny, but we just joke about it for a laugh, man.
Yeah.
For a laugh.
It's important.
Like I'm not any of those things that you may think I am. It's just a joke.
Yeah.
And humor is how we cope and deal with a lot of things. And honestly, if it makes you laugh, it releases good endorphins. And if you can't joke about like some
It's a
things
good
shouldn't
way
be
to get
joked
the
about,
truth
but,
across.
Hey,
It's a good way to get a hard to hear truth. I think you're fucking up in a funny way is a whole lot easier than you're fucking up.
well, and it's a way to kind of put something out there. You know,
what
it
I'm
might not be always the best way to communicate, which I found out with
Joking?
friends or
It's a balance. It's a very fine balance. You got to balance
You
it.
got to know your audience, you know, or if you're in a position of leadership, You know, you got to know who you're dealing with, and everybody takes criticism. You know, they receive it best in certain ways.
Yeah.
And when you're in a leadership role, you have to know, hey, Nathan doesn't respond well to me jumping his ass.
Yeah.
You know, whereas Greg be like, hey, Greg, you're slipping up, dude. You're a real freaking pansy right now.
Yeah.
You need to tighten up.
Yeah.
This is what you're doing wrong. Fix it. And some people, that's great. They get it very blunt, dry, to the point. Boom.
Well, that's
Some
the
people,
art of leadership.
You know, you need to say, hey, man, this is what you're doing great.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the areas that you can improve. And I think once you get these up here with what you're good at, you're ready to move on to the next level.
If you have any success as a parent and you have more than one child, that's when I say that. If you have more than one child and you have been somewhat successful across a spectrum, you understand that fully because they are not the same. I have 3 boys and I have to negotiate with them differently. So that's life. It's actually, I call it, it's a skill. It's an art. It's a skill in leadership because people are not the same. You cannot use the same approach for everyone.
Yeah.
And we got so fucking sidetracked, but we were talking about you accepting me.
Yeah.
And what happened was I bought a Jeep because I was fascinated with the Jeeps around the GOAT. Greg's Jeep, everybody's Jeep. I did throw myself under the bus because I could have made fun of Greg's Jeep because it's what would you call someone like that? Extra?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's the terminology for you young children. People that go excessively into anything,
younger crowd.
They're extra. So I hear. Apparently, I'm extra. I have a trash can. What do I have on the back of my Jeep?
Trasharoo.
Trasharoo. I got a Trasharoo on the back of my Jeep, and this chick at Toots the other night, she was like, "You're extra." I was like, "Brennan never says that, but I've heard him say, oh, they're just extra." Anyways, long story short, I bought an orange Jeep. I love the Jeep, fell in love with the Jeep, and I was going west. I was telling Greg about going west, and he was like, yeah, Greg Owens. He was my bartender at the time. I have a lot of stories about bartenders. That painting was bartender did. She's a good friend of mine, Miss Mo. Some of my best friends are bartenders. I've met some bartenders that ain't worth a shit, but I'm gonna tell you, the good ones are priceless. Let me tell you, I think that humanity may undervalue I think humanity undervalues a good bartender. I'm telling you, man. I think there's nothing better.
People in the service industry in general, and I was thinking about this
You're
earlier.
right.
You know, we talked about communication a little bit, and you know, I was thinking about that, and I'm like, you know what? People in the service industry, I feel
is undervalued.
Have maybe
Although we
undervalued,
tip pretty good.
but
I don't know. I tip pretty good.
I think they have a leg up now, and
Okay.
and being in the management role in the service industry, some people struggle more than others, but overall, most of the people in the service industry are fairly young. But how many people at those ages are forced to interact with that many people? Even older people our age.
I think it's a wonderful skill.
How many people, new people, do you interact with, like on a daily, weekly, monthly basis?
Well, I'm so glad you're saying this because I always say, listen, Brennan, if I wonder if he can answer this question. If I ever told you the most important skill to have, let me give you a multiple choice so I don't really confuse him. Would you think education, skill, or charisma is the most valuable, we'll call it skill or benefit trait? Yeah. What do you think I would say is the most beneficial?
Wait, what were the options? Charisma,
education, skill, or charisma?
Charisma.
100%.
100,000%.
Yeah, charisma gets you so far in life. Just being able to communicate.
It'll take you farther.
God, it's so good. Now, they're all important. But if I had to choose one, being able to negotiate with another human being.
Who's going to get the promotion? Say you have one of each of them.
There's a lot of charismatic people that do not deserve to be in a role, but their charisma got them there.
Yeah.
You know, it's unfortunate that they didn't have the skill or the education to back up that charisma, but that's the way it goes. So I say, look, when it comes down to it, your charisma, negotiating, I think the service industry is a wonderful training ground for every human being. And any parent out there that's worried about their kids succeeding, let them go into the service industry. It's just a huge reason why
that's more so needed. A lot of people have an opinion about people need to serve their country, join the military for at least 2 years or whatever it is, their opinion is about that.
Yep.
With the technology and the way our society is nowadays, I feel the service industry would be a lot more beneficial because of the communication skills that people need to develop to be successful in that industry. And they can carry that on into whatever realm they choose to. Whereas the military, you're good at taking orders, but like you said, out of those 3 options, maybe you have a crap ton of education. Maybe you have a crap ton of skill. But if I don't know you, why am I going to promote you?
Yeah.
Why am I going to take a chance on you?
And just, look, man, the service industry, I can be having a bad fucking day, but if I don't learn how to keep my bad day to myself, I'm not going to make any money. And life is hard. And that's why people think, oh, you're so positive, Nathan. Well, I have bad days too, but I just choose not to share it because it's not beneficial to a conversation, a negotiation. Everyday life, I just swallow that shit and I'll deal with it at a later date. And right now, we're going to have a good conversation. We're going to have a meaningful interaction. And I think the service industry can teach that. And people, you can just get cussed out by a parent or a boyfriend or a girlfriend and have to show up for your shift to make peanuts, right?
You have to put
what
a
is it?
smile
A couple
on
dollars.
your face.
You got to fake that shit. And that's fucking life.
Get the shit done. Because you know what? If you don't,
that's life, though.
You
but
don't get paid. You don't get paid.
That's every aspect of every life. I don't give a fuck if you're talking about being a dean at a college or the president of a corporation. It's the attitude that you're able to deliver.
Compartmentalize.
Yeah. Or however it is. I mean, it's really. I feel this way, but I'm going to act this way. I'm going to deliver this. Anyways, I think that's critical. And I'm going to go back and finish about the tribe. So Greg and I said I was going to go west, and Greg really wants to go west. And this is before I knew all this. He's like, I really want to do it too. And he has a Jeep crew, the Big Pun crew. I don't know if I should say that. Should we bleep that?
No.
Because it's kind of going to get too big. It's at the edge of its tribal ability, and it's going to fraction off if it gets any bigger.
Like monkeys.
Yeah. I'm telling you. So, and that's why I love that it's so private. I would not want to be a part of. And I appreciate anyone that is a part of any group because there's some big ones out there. And that's how you learn. There's forums out there there's some really incredible large groups.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not for me. I like this.
Yeah.
I don't like typing, communicating. I like to be able to have a birthday together. And honestly, our group's almost gotten out of hand. And I can actually feel comfortable about saying our group because I do feel accepted on that level. But when I first met everyone, I didn't understand what you guys had because I've never been affiliated with a group. I've always been associated with all groups. I was always terrified of being identified as, oh, he's this or he's that. And I don't know if it's terrified, but me and my wife
some
both.
Some people are like that.
Well, me and my wife both, since we were young, we never would join a group. We would be friends with everyone.
Which I think a lot of people, and I don't know the statistics, whether it's more or less or whatever, but a lot of people want that feeling of belonging to a group. I actually struggled with quite the opposite.
That's every city.
I was a diplomat floating from tribe to tribe.
Yeah, you're very diplomatic.
And I was like, man, I just don't belong anywhere.
Yeah.
Until I got to a point where I was like, you know what? But that's who I am. I'm part of a Jeep group.
Yeah,
I'm part of a guys that like to go out and play flag football group. I'm part of these guys that like to go out to punk rock shows group. I'm not punk. I'm not country. I'm not hip hop. Like any of this thing that like people like to, try to associate themselves with and say, oh, I'm this type of person. You know, it's like, well, you don't need to say that you're that person and that person only. It's okay to be a little bit of everything, you know?
Well, it requires a level of confidence, which you have, to not have such an opinion that I am this and I am that. You're open-minded. And that's rare. So, I good on you. And it's required. Honestly, if the world fell apart, you would be a very helpful gear in, you know what I mean?
It's kind of like being a jack of all trades.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, to be able to communicate.
I think that's where you and I fall into.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
Might not be great at one thing.
I'm not.
But you know what? We know enough about almost any topic or conversation to get ourselves in, and then I'd like to believe that you and I, you know what? We know enough. We'll have an opinion about maybe a little bit,
but be
then
willing
we'll
to
sit
accept
back
someone else's
and listen and learn.
Yeah. To be able to bring groups together.
Yeah.
Is because look, I'm not saying groups should always join. Your
but
group
they can
stay
party
there.
together.
Yes, and they can negotiate. You know what I mean? It's very effective. I produce this. Like, okay, I want to get into all that, but look, and I'll try to make it quick. When I met you guys, I did not understand what I was getting into.
Right.
I'd never met any groups. You're right, and then you guys don't take it all that seriously either. But so Greg had invited me to do this race with you guys. It was a rally called the Red Clay Rally. But so we had talked about it like 2 nights ago. I think we were together, me, Greg, and Derek, because we're all January birthday guys, and we was all working on shit the other day, and we all for whatever reason we went out. But Greg was. We were all telling the story about how we all met, and Derek. I guess Derek let it slide. Like, Greg didn't ever tell anyone about me or my kids and everything. He's like, yeah, I got this guy's coming. But, you know, when we met, he was like, yeah, come with us. You can join right now, because that's Greg. Greg's, he's all inclusive. He's just a fucking great guy. Yeah. But then you have a group, and then he has to tell the group, oh, yeah, there's this guy coming. Well, the group is always going to be like, well, who the fuck? You know what I mean? Are they cool? Are they going to be disruptive? Because you have something that's sacred. You really, really do have something that's sacred. And now I do feel privileged to be a part of that thing. And I'm very careful. If I have anyone that says, hey, I want to hang out with you guys, huh? You know what I mean? I'm just a part of this sacred thing. And I feel very privileged that I am a part of something. And that's what it was for a lot of people, for even you that didn't, what's this guy? Who is this guy? Or however you describe me. But it did take a little while for us to get to know each other. But, you know, it's funny, on the second night of the Red Clay Rally, so we spent the first night in a parking lot. It was miserable. Rained. They were under a tarp. Yeah, we were so unprepared for this. I'm thinking it's July?
June.
Okay, it was hot.
June, yeah.
So I was like, okay, we don't want to take heavy shit, no extra. We're in a Jeep. There was 4 of us in a Jeep. We're going to be spending 3 days, 6, 4, 6, 5. However,
I think you were the first one to fit, and I think the only one until PAX goes on anything to fit 4 people in a Jeep for.
Well, we didn't sleep in it.
Well, no, but you lived out of it.
Yeah, we did.
You know,
we couldn't do that now. It's so advanced now. That system I have now is not going to fit 4. I mean, we can fit 4 people in the Jeep. They can ride in it, 5 actually, but not sleep in it.
And
not
everything else we
sleeping.
got to take. Yeah,
Yeah, I had
like,
this.
Oh, gosh.
I wasn't too far off. I did okay.
We're just kind of winging it then, you know, just figuring.
Yeah,
stuff out
the
as we
first
go.
night it comes a flood. And
We
we have
learned
a
very
bug
quickly.
net. What was it?
We learned very quickly.
Yeah, we learned really quickly. There was a bug net that water was like. I'd brought cots for the boys. They'll just sleep on cots. That worked. Rain was coming in this net and dripping all over the boys. They never complained. But I woke up in the middle of the night and it was flooding, and I have to get out with a knife and cut Nez. It's Nez's net. It was like a bug net, and I'm cutting this net, and Rebecca's like, "Oh, it's her. It's somebody. Fuck her." I'm cutting. I'll buy a new one, you know. I cut this net, and we sleep through the night. We get to the second campsite, some insane mountain. The trail was insane. Like, we were on that ridge. I don't know what that ridge was. Dense It was awful.
It was
awesome.
We pulled up to the site. Everybody was on this lower part, and we came
got
up to the top
and I got
part.
a cool photo of that.
Yeah.
The
So
clouds was on us.
That was the.
That was
You've
the
only
second
been on one rally, right?
one.
Okay.
One.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a pretty cool site, though.
We're unloading. I've got some gear that I set out behind, and Brennan jumps off the top of the Jeep, and there's a stainless steel rod that's about 2.5 feet
I didn't
long.
jump. I fell off.
He fell off the Jeep, and so it's a stainless steel rod. It's, I would say, 5/8 thick, and it goes to my grill. And this rod is designed. It's a grill that I built, and when he falls, he jumps and he lands like I thought he was impaled through his asshole with a stainless steel rod. It looked awful.
Oh, God.
And he jumps up and says, "I'm fine." And I'm looking. I was like, "Are you sure you're fine? You look like you just got impaled, dude." I thought it went through his leg, like through his taint or something. And he's like, "No, I'm fine." He's just talking to me like I'm fine. And then all of a sudden he goes, "I don't know." He passes out. He hits the ground and Casey's a paramedic, Rebecca's a nurse, and I'm panicked. Like I'm up on top of this mountain, and here's my son. I don't know any of you people, and Casey and Mariah is very inclusive. That's one thing I'll say about Casey and Mariah. It doesn't matter how much of it, like they are so. There's just I'm so happy that the group that we have is not everyone's the same. Everyone has a different role that they are who they are, and everyone comes in at the right time. And Casey and Mariah are super, like, how would you say it? Like, they would welcome anybody. How about this? Yeah. They would want to make anyone feel super welcome. Whether that maybe just because they were next to us, maybe that would have been you had the roles been reversed. I have no idea. But they were parked next to us, and Casey's a paramedic. And he comes over and he's looking at Brennan, and I don't know. I just felt super secure with him right out of the gate. It was almost like they took on the role of, let's let the new people that are obviously not accepted, you know what I mean? Let's accept them and make them feel comfortable. Not that anyone made us feel uncomfortable. They just kind of went out of their way. And so they come over. We're trying to wake Brennan up.
I was dreaming about driving down the roads. I was dreaming about the most random things.
You were out of it. And that was all pain, right? It was just pain.
Yeah, I just blacked out and started dreaming.
Dude, he was out for so long.
All I remember is driving around back roads. All I remember.
And when he woke up, he was embarrassed, and he didn't know what was going on.
Flashlights and random people.
Yeah. It was such a hard thing to be in because I didn't know anyone. Here, what was there? There was 5 other team groups. There was 6 Jeeps, 2 people to each Jeep minimum. And so it was a lot of people that I didn't know. And here I have got my family. I'm underprepared. They froze on the first night. And I'm thinking, I'm a fuck up. And this is not my clan. I don't know these people. I just showed up at Cracker Barrel one morning like, what are we meeting? And they're like, Cracker Barrel. And I show up and like, everybody's like, hey, guys. Everybody was nice. Don't get me wrong. Everybody was nice. But everyone else was like, who the fuck are these people? Your gut instinct is like, are they cool? What I think the secret is that you're hoping that these people are cool. If Greg invited them, I just hope he made a good choice. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I did not expect to be accepted. I'm the farthest from it. I truly want to earn my way into anything in life, and that's just the way I am. I want to deserve it. That way I don't take it for granted. So that night, I let everybody sleep in the Jeep, and I sleep in the front seat, setting up like this on this mountain, cold. It was so fucking. It was awful.
Oh God, that's what I did the first year. The year before, it was just Nicole and I, and honestly, that was all of our first trip. Was the year before that, and I was like, I was like, it's only a few days. I'm like, I can sleep anywhere, anything, and it wasn't too bad, but by the end of the trip, I was like, I'm ready for a bed.
Yeah.
I'm ready for a bed.
Yeah.
I told Nicole because we didn't have a tent, and I was like, should we even bring a tent? Like, I don't know, like rooftop tents.
So that was your first experience.
Year
do you feel like that was your first experience? Do you feel like I was kind of prepared for
you
my
were
first?
Way more prepared than I was. Way more.
That's
prepared.
what I kept hearing. I kept saying I'm not prepared. They're like, dude, We didn't have
Honestly,
shit on our first one.
way before. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think like everybody else, like, I think Greg probably had the best setup. Jay and Casey, they had tents. They had their own thing going on. So I mean, they were kind of prepared. But I was like, we don't need a tent. I was like, I don't want to take the time to do all that. I'm like, oh, Nicole can sleep in the back. She can stretch out and do that thing. And I'll sleep in the front seat. I'll be fine. You know, I was like thinking, I'm like, well, we're going to be drinking most of this nights anyways. Like, I'll be able to pass out. Like, it's not going to bother me none. Oh, and when you get a little bit older and your body starts aching and stuff because you're sleeping in a sit-up position, and that sitting in a Jeep isn't like sitting in a lazy boy or anything.
Yeah.
You know. But
Yeah, I
you
mean,
were definitely the most prepared for your first trip.
Well, I'm a backpacker. I mean, backpacking, I've backpacked hundreds and hundreds, maybe 1,000 miles. I don't know. I mean, backpacking something that's like in my blood. So I but that also worked against me to a point that I went like a backpacker, a minimalist. Yep. And I had the basics. We were going to survive, and that's all I was thinking about.
Well, and you're, and granted, you had a family, and this isn't a knock on you because it's more of a knock on me. I'm thinking like, okay, this is what I'm okay with.
Yeah.
So my family would be okay
Well,
with stuff.
me and you are more like that than not.
Being a minimalist, like thinking, okay, I don't need that luxury stuff. You know, like I don't need a cot or a bed or even a pillow.
We didn't listen to our wives.
I can ball up.
Did Nicole not just say, "Are you sure, honey"?
No, Nicole.
Because
like I
she
said,
trusted you?
Nicole trusted me. She, like I said, dude, she
On the second
loves me
Red Clay
way
rally?
more than I deserve.
Yeah. Well, I think Rebecca does me too. But Rebecca did say, "Are you sure? We don't need more blankets than this?" I'm like, nah, we're fine.
No, I've gotten
I didn't think about us
better.
being in the mountains the whole time and it being 30 degrees cooler.
I have gotten better of like
Yeah.
thinking. I'm like, okay, I'm okay with this, but
Nicole, what do you think?
But Nicole Pierce, and then in future,
And,
with
and honestly,
Max.
I would have been tickled to death. But when you realize your family's uncomfortable and they're not, it's a hard feeling. Because as a provider, as a dad, you're thinking, you're projecting, oh yeah, they'll be fine. And then that night, you feel you're a little cold. And it's almost like a sympathy cold. Like I feel, my kids wouldn't have been there, I wouldn't have given a fuck. I'd have just got shit faced and wouldn't have worried about it. But my kids ain't shit faced, right?
Right.
And so is that what happened to you?
Yeah.
Because that happened
Where
to
you
me.
get to a point and you're just like, oh man,
I woke up the next morning.
that was a shitty dad move.
Well, the
Shitty
second
dad
day,
move.
I wake up, and Greg is the only one up. He's outside his Jeep. He's got his shit slid open. He's all fancy. He's got all these drawers on his Jeep. And I thought, damn, I was not prepared. My family's asleep, which I was happy about that. But I'm sitting there. I'm trying to make coffee, and I'm weighing out my options, and I don't quit. I don't give up on nothing. Like, I am just the kind of guy that I'm going to win. But I thought, at what cost? I mean, fuck, they're miserable, man. After the experience of Brennan passing out, like, it got to a point. And Brennan, I don't mean to throw you under the bus, but it fucked him up so bad he was crying. And Brennan's not a crier. Like, he was having an emotional wreck because he was embarrassed. I think that's ultimately what you may have been crying about.
Well, and as a
I've
young
never passed
person-
out before.
What?
I never passed out before. I didn't know what was
So,
happening.
yeah,
I
he
never
was
freaked out.
panicked.
I didn't want to be hurt and ruin the trip.
And that's what it was. That's who my kids are. We don't want to disrupt anyone else's fun. And thinking that the trip is over for us was like, fuck, I have to go over and tell Greg. Because Greg was my contact. Greg, to me, might as well been the guy in charge. And so I go over and I'm kind of bullshitting with him. And I was like, I don't know what the conversation. I know what it felt like. I don't know exactly what was said. But ultimately, I was like, I'm underprepared. And in my mind, I'd walked over 30 yards is what it looked like to me across this field of like grass. It was 4 feet tall. It was like the walk of shame to go over and say, I'm taking my family home. I'm not going to do this to them. I'm giving up. And I get over there, and Greg's just positive. Everything's going good. I was like, man, everybody's cold. He's like, go get some fucking sleeping bags. I can do that? Like, really? I don't know if that was what was said, but ultimately in the end of the conversation, maybe I even suggested, I wish I could get a sleeping bag. I don't really know what was said, but within 2 minutes of talking to him, I realized they were cool. You guys were cool with me going to a Walmart. And I left that fucking mountain like a bat out of hell. We had no signal. And we fly down this mountain. We drive so far and find a Walmart and a Starbucks. Because if I had $1,000 to blow that day, I would have blown it to make everybody happy. Buy whatever you need. You know what I mean? Sleeping bags, this, that. I'm going to get your mom's Starbucks, dropping the kids off at McDonald's. Like it was like a 3-part, like it was a mission. Didn't you guys go to McDonald's? Mom went to Walmart. I went to Starbucks. Like because I was so worried about you guys waiting on us. Like I'm not going to fuck up the race. And that's what my biggest fear was. I was not going to put anyone else out. So we're flying. We get our shit and we're fucking flying back. Woo! Get pulled over by... We was in Kentucky, I think.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, it was Kentucky. I get pulled over by a Kentucky State Trooper. I remember there was a school on the right. And I don't know how fast I was going, but it was too fast apparently. He writes me some big fat ticket that I completely forgot to pay. That was 2-3 years ago. Never paid it. I probably don't need to go to Kentucky. I actually went online trying to figure out how to pay it, and they wouldn't let me. So I probably need to call them. So I finally get in radio contact with you guys. I was like, okay, I'm at the bottom of the mountain, and I think y'all are going to come out here. And that's what happened. You guys came out. I joined in with y'all. And from there, I felt like, okay, I'm in. I've got it. I didn't disrupt the crew. We became friends. And every night after that, we got a little closer. You know what it was? It was the fucking dogs. The dogs. On the last day.
Last night.
We hadn't spent the night.
Yeah, it was the last day.
It was the third day.
It was the last day. We were supposed to finish that day.
Jeep. Tony broke his Jeep.
Yeah.
And we were looking for a welder. Well, I crossed that creek. Okay, we crossed the river, and we're all in the road, and we were all having fun. We all had a good time that day because we all took pictures with each other. It was like a really bonding moment. We crossed the creek, and we realized, okay, Tony's Jeep's fucked. He broke a track bar.
Track bar, yep.
And we're in the middle of the mountains. I don't know what mountains.
BFE, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Like BFE,
Yeah,
Kentucky.
there's no cell phone services. And there's a driveway that goes up this hill. And the girls, it was Rebecca and Mariah, we were looking for a welder. So they walk up. And this is the last night. Like that night's the night we were supposed to check in for the last night.
Yeah,
of
we
the
were
race.
supposed to finish that afternoon, that night, yeah.
So they walk up and find Rebecca sees a dog. A puppy.
5 weeks old at
didn't
the time?
see? Yeah, they were babies. Yeah, I guess the vet said there were something, but they were just some mixed breed, some mutt. And Rebecca is talking to this woman in this trailer, and looking for a welder, and looking for a phone, and she's not nice. Apparently, not overly rude, but very suspicious on why these two females and Mariah's packing.
Some random people, yeah, exactly, dude. And honestly, if I lived there, I would have been the same.
Oh, 100%. And they negotiate and talk this woman into calling her brother. And at that time, they see a dog. Rebecca runs and picks up this dog, which is now a journey. And they start spotting more dogs crawling out, like dogs climbing, like trying to get away, scattering. These are wild animals. And I see Rebecca coming down this hill carrying this, oh my God, look at this puppy. And the next thing I know, the girls are running up the hill to salvage and save these animals. And there was 5?
Yep.
So I'll tell that story in a second. So the brother shows up, the happiest, nicest guy in like a, what was he in? Like a bluish green, aqua colored celebrity Ford Taurus.
Sable or
yes,
something like
one of those
that.
early 90s cars.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I know somebody. So we grab me and Casey, we jump in the car with this dude, and he is stroker ace, born to race. I don't think he had a mean streak 10 feet wide, but he was a motherfucker on these fucking mountain roads, scaring the shit out of me and Casey. I mean, he was flying, dude. I mean, this must have been just the way they do it. It's these barely 2-lane roads. And he takes us to some other guy that's super remote, had to be 5 miles away, felt like 20. And we drag these people out of bed, and they are just as remote. And I'm going to tell you, this is a tribe. This is a tribe that may have 20 families in it, spread out over 1,000 acres, and they help each other. And we're negotiating with charisma. Hey, man, we need your help. And we're just bullshitting. You know, that whole thing of charisma, like trying to make these people feel good. You know, they were so happy to help us, by the way. But there's like two parts of this story: how I felt and what really happened. And what really happened was magical, but how I felt was deliverance. Right? You know what I mean? And but that's just my own insecurities. But ultimately, they helped us. We welded this track bar back together. We didn't make it very far, but we did end up with 5 dogs because we were on a journey. And what's really fucked up, no one intended for this to happen. Like, a handful of people named their dogs, and then I like to think, and everybody says, oh no, it wasn't planned. I don't think it was planned, because
I think it was planned.
Was it planned?
I'm pretty sure it was, from my perspective.
Well, because
it was planned.
One dog was named Rebel.
No.
Yeah, your dog. They named your dog Rebel.
No.
And they changed it because we were on a journey when we crossed the river on a red clay rally, and your dog was named. Somebody named it Rebel.
That's true.
Mariah.
Oh.
Before it was your dog.
Yeah, I didn't catch all
And
that.
then something about and then Jade said, "Oh my God." Like, from what I understand, Jade says, "Oh my God, we were on a journey when Jade named her dog River because we had just crossed the river." And Greg named Red and Clay because they were Red and Clay. And then Rebel, she was like, she changed it to Rally. Anyways, that's how I remember it. And we all share this common bond. And the night of us meeting with those dogs, it sealed the deal. Like, it's this common thing that we all have. And all of our dogs are very, what would you say, related? They are so unusually alike. It's so crazy.
I mean, they are related.
I know, but in the way that you know these dogs are related. Every time I'm around Red or Clay or Rally, I just know that with the way they lean against me, they're all the same dog, and it just trips me out.
There is a sense, and I see River, Clay,
Now,
and
River's
Journey more than I do Red.
Yeah.
But it's like they all have a sense of like, okay, these were the men and women, you know.
Yeah, and so everybody that's listening, there was 3 males and 2 females. Red, Clay, and Rally are the males, which are massive, and River and what's my dog's name? Journey. River and Journey. Journey ended up being the runt. Although she's huge.
Rally was
the runt. He was so under.
He was tiny. He was about 2/3,
yes,
if not half the size of the others.
Yes, and now he wound up being one of the biggest.
I think him and Clay are about the same size.
Okay, and then Red's probably the biggest. Red's unusual.
I don't know. I think he was the biggest for a little while.
You think they all passed?
I think they're all the same.
Okay, so River looks like a Doberman Pinscher. Her legs are like this long. Yeah. She's huge. I mean, they all look the same, but
they all look the same, but they all look different.
Yeah. And God, man, I'm gonna tell you, everyone that has one of these dogs are in love with them. And I've had dogs my whole life, but I've never seen Rebecca so attached to a dog. And I mean, look, Journey's full of flaws. Like, she's super aggressive towards other dogs. She bites the shit out of them. She doesn't ever bite anything to hurt it. She just attacks. And but there's there's such a sweet side to her. Oh my God, you just beg her to come hang out with you. It's really weird. Even Brennan, we were on the way home thinking we're not going to keep this dog. Like, part of us is like, if we keep this dog, it's got to be. And Brennan is the one that says we're keeping her. And we're like, all right, we'll do it. This will be a family thing. And yeah, she's been wonderful. We love her. Even though she fucks up all the time. She's destroyed half the shit in our house. That's just part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife, though, has really, because she was out of hand, my wife was a responsible adult and started investing a tiny bit of time in taking her out when it was, appropriate. And for the last 4 months, it's been amazing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I was super paranoid that night. Or that
Of the
afternoon.
dogs?
Not the dogs. We were just in BFE,
Oh.
Kentucky.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like-
yeah.
I'm like, dude, this is.
What'd you think, Brennan? Was you nervous? It was Deliverance. Have you ever seen the
Yeah, I
movie
was-
Deliverance, Brennan?
I've heard about it. I've probably seen it when I was younger.
What's
but-
it about? No, you never seen it.
Okay, then no.
Dude, I was. We're in meth country.
Oh,
Like it
yeah.
or not, we're in meth country, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, dude, everybody's probably got a good buzz going on and everything.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like,
It was the end of the day. We've been drinking all
dude,
day.
I was strapped, ready to go, because I didn't know who was showing up.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, there would be a bunch of dudes showing up in a pickup truck, freaking take all of our shit, kill us, sell it,
For the
all that
for
shit.
the diplomatic one,
like,
you were ready to fight.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, there's scenarios.
Yeah, it's one.
You know what's
extreme or the
funny?
other.
That's where I'm my best when it comes to. You know what's funny? Like I'm ready for just about it. Like there's a personality that I switch on, which is we're all good. My wife does it too. It's like nobody's fighting. You know what I'm saying? Like we but it's good that there's other people that's ready. But I'm trying to negotiate that the whole time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like there's a good group of us that really
And
kind
within
of
our group, a couple
Every
of us have
void
talked
is
about
filled.
this. We're like, you know what? We've all had our moments where somebody has to be the protector of the group. If there's not more than one,
especially when there's alcohol
at
involved.
least one person is diligent in knowing their surroundings, knowing exactly what's going on, being prepared for the worst. Especially if there's alcohol going on. saying,
Alcohol is
okay,
really the problem because you're looking for who's. And I'm gonna piss, and we'll come right back, and we'll wrap this thing up. But someone's always looking to pray. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it is.
I mean, and it's sad.
Especially
I
when
don't want it to be like
we have
that,
a group
but-
of beautiful ladies in our group. We really, really do.
Yeah.
And it's unusual, but it is what it is. And men are men, and predators are predators. It's just the way it is. I'm gonna piss. I'll be right back. Man, I've really enjoyed myself. I had to take a pee break there. God, I had to pee so bad because I didn't pee on the first one.
Yeah, I got the very small bladder.
God,
so
dude, you have got the radio voice of radio voices.
Agreed.
I've heard.
Jesus, I'm a little
heard.
jealous.
I don't know.
I'm telling you, man, people are going to want you to seduce that microphone more often.
Dude,
Look.
I mean, we can do this more often.
I
love
really
it.
want to.
love it.
I need to be able to be more mobile, although it's kind of got its look. And now you get to see what it all looks like, what it really looks like, because you'd never seen this office before, have you? You've been over here before, but
I've been over here, but
But
I
you
don't
didn't see
think
the
I've
studio.
Seen it honestly, and watching the podcast, I was like, I was expecting, I guess, something bigger, and
Yeah,
I don't
everybody
know
does.
why, but being
Yeah.
from the Midwest, I was like, oh, he's in his basement,
yeah,
You know,
everybody
and-
thinks it's my
and
basement.
I was like, shit, we don't
Well,
have,
they
we
either-
don't have basements here.
Yeah, no, everybody thinks it's my basement or my garage, and they don't realize that is my wife's desk, that is my desk, and that is my oldest son's desk. We all three, and then that wall behind you is actually a wall that it's painted that gray. That's 16% gray. I think that's what it's called. We used it for headshots. Well, I don't do headshots anymore, but that's why it's painted that color. The color of this room is for editing and.
This room
But
has just
anyway.
changed for whatever we needed it, honestly.
Yeah, and this table I got for like $20 at Goodwill and painted with like chalkboard paint, and it folds up, it moves out of the way, and everything just kind of fit. Like nothing here was done for the podcast. It was just what it was. Now the painting I did put in here because the wall was a little behind you. It was bland, so that painting, and I know it is weirdly low, but it has to be for the shot, and that's I'm a David Gilmour fan. Pink Floyd.
It's all good, man.
Yeah. My friend painted all these. She painted that. Anyway, so we were talking about the Ray Clay rally, and we were talking about surviving the meth, what we felt.
Methville. Yeah.
In the reality, and yeah, it probably was a lot of meth in that area. I mean, it's normal. It's pretty normal for
knows? And
rural
it-
areas.
I
I grew up in Summitville.
It's like the meth
Really?
people. Yeah.
See, and so okay, what's funny is that the way I was told, meth started in my hometown.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't think I'm joking.
Yeah.
No, I'm not joking. I'm actually telling the truth. You know what I mean? There are stories that, how meth got popular was was from what I forget, Mexico or whatever, bikers, Hell's Angels, and then they taught it. Anyways, the point is that it was really bad in the area that I grew up in, and then everybody has their own legend, and every town likes to tell, they like to be the center of a legend. So, but every hometown across America, I'm sure, was the beginning of meth through what I would say the 90s, early 90s. Is that when it took off, or late 80s, early 90s?
To be honest with you, I don't really know.
I don't know either, but it
I don't
became
know.
a problem.
But you know what?
Small town America.
But meth,
It's cheap.
out of the realm of the drug world,
Yep.
and I'm not speaking from experience, but
Me neither.
just from what I know, meth seems like an American-made thing.
And it's not,
when we
but
go.
they figured out a way to
go. We hey, let's do it big as we can for as cheap as we can, and cause the biggest clusterfuck ever.
Okay, so what I've learned is, I guess I just watched a documentary. It was called Crack. It's about heroin. So you have cocaine,
Yeah.
and that's the rich man's drug. And then for the African American community in the, what would you say? It was Reagan's late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, so they figured out how to take coke and convert it to heroin. Like if they can take I don't know much about it, but from what I understand from the documentary, they could take $100 worth of coke and convert that to $1,000 worth of heroin.
I don't think it's the same thing.
Well,
I think it's.
you may be
completely
right,
different.
but I had learned, like there was a. You may be right, but ultimately they were able to take a rich man's drug and they figured out how to make heroin from something. Or they buy I don't know how it worked, but in it all
heroin's a completely different
here's the good
thing,
news.
I think
Those watching
from the
know
documentaries
that
I watched.
those watching know that neither one of us have experience.
Yeah, we sound very
Yeah.
ignorant right
Yeah.
now.
so for the poor black community, it would have been heroin. For the poor white community, it would have been methamphetamines. I think would have been like, that's what I had seen it as. So yeah, so poor whites meth, poor black, it would have been heroin, and the rich people, black or white, got coke or cocaine. Why was we saying that? Because that's what
How in the
overtook
hell did-
America.
Yeah.
Well, I'd seen
Oh, yeah,
there's a
Meth-
cool
Methville,
documentary.
Methville. That's
You
what
know,
we start
I'm
on
sure
this.
there's movies about meth, but there was a documentary about crack. Crack cocaine. Yes, it's from cocaine. Heroin is crack cocaine.
No, crack cocaine.
Brennan, Google it.
Yeah. Yeah, we got Google for a reason. We got
While he's looking
use
that
the
up, we'll
smartphones.
go
You
on.
want
So
me to
we
Google what?
Google is heroin from cocaine. That's why it's called crack cocaine.
No,
Cocaine.
crack cocaine's something different. See, so cocaine, people generally snort coke, right? But when you crack cocaine, I think is more related to meth.
As long as you add, I think.
I think I'm not held responsible.
No one would assume you know what you're talking
Is
about.
there a disclaimer before this? But yeah, crack cocaine is more similar to meth.
I would agree.
I think.
No, 100%.
I think.
No, I agree.
So crack cocaine is like cocaine that's been broken down, probably mixed with some other crap, like household cleaning supplies or
Yeah,
something.
no, I agree.
You
I
know.
think the base product was from cocaine.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? The heroin is a base?
No.
Oh.
Crack cocaine. Heroin is a completely different thing.
Well, the whole documentary was called Crack, but it was about heroin. I'm telling you, there's on Netflix right now. It's called Crack. I think.
people smoke crack.
Yeah, and that's what they were doing with heroin. You can
Heroin,
shoot it
you
up.
shoot it.
Yeah, you can shoot it or smoke it. I promise. I'm telling you, I only know this because I've seen it on the doc. Now, let me tell you, it's supposedly amazing.
It's supposed. I don't know. See, I've always.
I
been
mean,
scared.
amazing one. Oh, fuck, I'm scared of everything.
I'm scared.
I'm scared of a Tylenol. I'm not shitting you. I mean, I'm just not
I'm not a big medicine
No,
person
me
in
neither.
general. And
Me neither.
and I've always
all of us
I was not very good at chemistry,
Yep. Well, I never took it.
and I didn't want to mess with pills.
I don't think Brennan's very good at Googling because he hasn't given us a fucking
I
answer.
don't know. It just says it's a drug made from morphine and natural substances taken from the seed pod.
Heroin is? Heroin is made from
Poppy plant.
poppy.
Aponium poppy plants.
Okay, so
What if you Google heroin versus crack, or heroin differences crack?
Siri.
Yeah, we sound very suburban right now.
Yeah, I know. Let me
Very
see.
suburban.
I'm sorry, guys. Everybody's sitting here. It's like it's made from. There are people screaming at their screen right now. It's made from blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Bitch, it's because you smoked it,
Yeah,
or you
if you're-
shot it.
If
So
if
shut
somebody
up.
is yelling at us about
Yes.
the differences, like
If
knowing
you
off
know-
the top of your head,
Is heroin made from cocaine? Go. What is heroin? How is heroin made? Is heroin made of blah blah blah? So we got to pick the headline. That I'm going to choose the first one.
That's what I was.
God bless.
why can't Google just give us a simple yes or no?
Thanks.
Alright.
I don't want
Simple yes or
don't
no.
track my cookies. Heroin is highly addictive. Illegal drugs used. It's made from opium, morphine,
That's what I saw.
poppy. Well, fuck it, man. Vicious.
It doesn't really give you.
Nah, I don't want a whole life lesson. I just wanted a yes or a no.
Yeah.
All right,
we
so-
don't want the why.
So the reason why I said that, the reason why I thought it was, is because cocaine was the rich man's drug. Reagan was in office. Say no, just say no. And the African community, or I shouldn't even say African. I should say the
I would
inner
say
city.
Urban.
It was inner city,
Yeah.
but it really affected predominantly the African community. Like that's who was standing up against it, was the African. Why am I saying African?
I don't know. Sounds
African American?
sounds pretty conservatively
Black.
racist.
Okay, so the black community stood up against this heroin epidemic because it was destroying the inner city. But they had said something about like young people,
I always thought heroin was like a rock and roller's drug.
probably because most rock and rollers were poor until they got big.
But they didn't become heroin addicts until they got
Like
big.
Stevie,
Like Motley Crue.
Motley Crue,
Motley
yeah,
Crue.
the bass player, he invented,
Nikki
he made
Sixx.
Nikki Sixx,
Yeah, Nikki Sixx.
yeah,
Nikki Sixx.
heroin, yeah, he OD'd on heroin.
Yeah, he came back.
But he started. I'm sure he got on heroin because it was a cheap man's drug. Cocaine was expensive.
Probably started on marijuana because that's the gateway.
It's the gateway drug. God, I hope not. Anyways, I don't know. So we were in Kentucky and we found 5 dogs and we survived. You were packing.
Yeah, I geared up. I stood back
Yeah.
and let you guys do your thing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I was paranoid
I
as
remember.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, being one of the only sober people there.
So you know what? Maybe this is why. So I lived in Chicago for a couple of years when I moved up there, and I repossessed cars with a company called Reliable Recovery, owned by Boris Yurkovich. I will say, I could write a book on this guy. He's one of the most fascinating human beings I've ever met. And I would think that I know about 6% of what he really is and who he really is. He's so fucking tall. He's one of the few people that I admired. You can't help it. The moment you meet him, you're like, I'll take the beta role. That's the alpha. In the room. Right? Just an amazing fucking dude with a heart so big. But he was also the scariest person I ever met. And I was from the South. I was from the hills of Tennessee, you know. And when people would talk about repossessing cars in Manchester, they went out with a logging chain and they drugged this thing back. You know, they didn't have a repo truck. They used a chain and a tow strap. And I get him, I don't even know if I want to tell the story. It's for another night. If somebody wants to hear it, I'll tell it. But ultimately, I wound up with this recovery. I wound up repossessing cars in Chicago from 2000 to 2003. And it was the greatest fucking job I ever had. It was the scariest thing I've ever done. It was the most dangerous thing I ever done. Brennan was born in 2003, which is why I quit. I was like, I don't think I can keep doing it because I took so many risks. I'm so competitive. I wanted to be the best. And I said that. Why did I say that? I brought up Boris for some reason. Anybody named Boris is kind of Boris Yurkovich, Russian, Croat. He actually ain't Russian. He's Croatian, Yugoslavian. Yeah. I don't want to get too much into him. Why did I bring him up? We were talking about something.
Methville.
Meth? How did I go to Chicago from that?
I mean,
Jesus, I don't even know how I fucked this story
I
up.
remember too. I don't.
God
know.
damn it.
I got so interested, I just forgot.
Jeez. I
dude,
can't remember.
You and I with rabbit holes. Like, it's...
I'm going to tell you, something got me there. I've never talked about Boris on here. I love him so much, man. I get a little nervous about talking about him.
About, him being the alpha of the room.
When I say alpha, beta, I know when I'm a beta, and I know when I'm an alpha. And I have learned, finally, and whether you agree or disagree, it's fine. I don't mind. Because I've spent years trying to understand what alpha, beta meant. And ultimately, through all you could call it mental exercises, alpha is a state of mind. And it's not a male, female, a child, adult. It's an individual's. It's the degree to which you believe in what's coming out of your mouth. That is to what degree you believe in yourself or the circumstance is a good way of measuring by alpha and beta. So when it comes to so many things. So getting into a ring
I think it's just a
of
role.
MMA fighters.
I think it's just a role.
A role, yes. But if I was going to step into a ring with an MMA fighter, I am going to be the beta because I don't possess any skills. Like, I would hit you in the head with a hammer in the street. I mean, but that's because I have a survival instinct.
Well,
I would shoot you,
Yeah.
but that doesn't make me an alpha, a fighter, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do, just because you do well in a ring doesn't mean you're going to do well in another circumstance, a job interview, at the bar.
That's why I consider it a role.
It's
It's not necessary. It can be a personality trait, but not necessarily, because our group, and I know a lot of people will talk about their groups and stuff like that and say, oh yeah, we're a bunch of alphas and stuff like that. But really, our group, and being it as small as it is, and being able to know each other as well as we do, our group is full of alphas. And I'm not talking about just males.
No,
females
and females
as well. But we know when, hey,
now's
the time to take a beta role.
That's it. That's
and
good.
We're going to designate an alpha for a particular situation, for a particular rally, or for a particular event. Whatever it is, there's somebody that's going to take the alpha role. We can all do the alpha role, but
someone's going to be better at it.
But based
on their experience,
we all know basically, too many chiefs, not enough Indians is problematic. So, let's just have one alpha. Let's have one guy do this, because when we put things up to a vote, and you saw it at the rally, and we've had it in other situations. Where it's like, okay, this, and this.
Well, when the tires go flat, you're the guy we called on.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have a lot of backstory, a lot of history, or the group knew that you were very experienced with blah, blah, blah. They want your opinion. And that's the way it should be. And we classify things as, oh, they're an alpha or they're beta. But we as a society or as a species, we say, oh, that's an alpha. Well, depending on what circumstance, yes and no. And I think that alpha and beta is not necessarily who someone is. It's a measure of confidence based on a circumstance, based on an opinion, based on an idea. And I think we've misled a population of, oh, that dude is an alpha. Well, in the ring, I see a lot of dudes that are alphas in the ring and betas in the bed. They really struggle in their own confidence in relationships, but they could whoop the shit out of anybody in a bar. Or I think that so this is what I've come up with. I've thought, oh shit, we should maybe, this is my opinion, we should measure alpha and beta as black and white. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's to what degree do I believe in something? My physical ability is one thing. My knowledge of tires or my knowledge of brakes or engines would put me on a spectrum of some degree. I believe I have the answer, right? And I think that's how we should start. If we could start seeing people that way, we could step aside. We'd feel more comfortable saying, "Oh, you know what? Let's ask so and so," rather than "You are the Almighty." So when I say someone is an alpha, it's to some degree that they believe in themselves based on whatever the circumstance is. So when I walked in the room with Boris, and it's his shop, and it's all his race cars, and it's his business, I'm not going to question. But when it comes to relationships, or when it comes to philosophy, he would, take a different role because maybe I know a little bit more about,
Okay.
liquor, whiskey, you know what I mean? It could be abstract. It could be as ridiculous as paintings. But it's not a masculine thing, and we've identified as
Or a
alpha.
dominance thing.
Yes, no, it's
Yeah.
not a dominance thing. We as a society have said if you're alpha, you're this.
It's more about
No.
aggression.
Yeah, it's not. And I think
control,
where
where
And-
you and I have different views on that.
and this is my opinion, and I could be completely wrong, but I was like, you know what? If we could say that alpha beta is everybody, it's not man versus woman. It's it's how much do you believe? And we usually identify an alpha with a fighter, but that's not always the truth.
And I said aggression and control.
But you're right. That's how we see
I
it.
feel alpha does have more about the control aspect.
Absolutely. We identify it as that.
And what
But I think
what
this
really changed my mind. Have you seen the movie Den of Thieves?
I don't know. How old is it?
I don't know. Google.
I want to say the best
It's probably
alphas.
like 5 or 6, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Ice Cube's son is in it. 50 Cent is in it.
No, I ain't seen it.
Oh gosh, you gotta watch
It's one of those Africans movies. I'm gonna piss off everybody.
Oh, God.
Sorry, brother. African American.
But
God, I've done made everybody mad.
if you've seen the movie, oh man, I really can't say without giving it away. But if you watch the movie, and I think maybe not yours, but it might change a little bit, or you might have a slightly different perspective on it. But watch the movie Den of Thieves until the very end. When you figure everything out, you're like, oh shit. Oh shit. What about you, Brandon? Have you seen it?
I've never seen it, no.
Oh, good gosh.
How about this? Okay, well, I'll say something else and I'll come back to this. I think a real alpha is confidence.
Yeah.
The confidence to know when to step aside and say, hey, let's listen to so-and-so. Let's listen to Brennan. Let's listen to my daughter, my son, my friend, my wife, my husband. I think that alpha is this. I believe. I think that's confidence. I think the difference between alpha and beta is I am confident or I am cocky. Cocky is I want you to believe. Confident is I believe. And that's how I identify the difference between alpha and beta. And I spent most of my life being cocky. And as I grew older, I became more confident. And it's a really hard thing. I used to tell people all the time, they'd be like, oh, you are so cocky. I'm like, bitch, I ain't cocky. I'm confident.
I used to say the same thing.
But the reality was, I shouldn't have to say it.
Yeah.
If I believe, I don't have to say anything. And so that's when I started realizing, oh my God, that's the spectrum. Is cocky is I need you to believe. Confident is I believe. And that's how I rendered down. When I finally got through my whole thought exercise, that's what it came down to. I was like, I'm done. I'm done. That's it. That's it. If I have to prove to you, I'm cocky. If I believe and don't really give a fuck what you think, I'm confident. And that's it. What do you think? You like?
Yeah.
It was funny because Brennan and I, so Greg and everybody was talking the other night because there's a fine line. Like life is hard. Life is what is that balance beam? That thing that with tightrope? Like life's a tightrope. Like it's very easy to go one side or the other and be accepted or not be accepted. And if you're the type that comes into a confident group of people and you have all the answers, you know everything. Let me tell you how to do it. Let me tell you this. Oh, that's just this. Oh, just listen to me for a second. It's pretty easy to be exiled. People don't want that much of an opinion. So you have to, if you're very knowledgeable in something, until someone asks for your opinion, you should just keep your fucking mouth shut. That's my thought. And that's a form of alpha. Like just being patient, waiting for someone to say, well, what do you think, CT? What do you think, Nathan? Right? But there's a fine line between, hey, guys, listen, I think what we should do is this. Not, guys, listen, shut up for a fucking second. All you have to do is this. Right? Those are two totally different ways of doing things. And so people were having trouble with tires. Tires were falling off in the Red Clay Rally. And Brennan, my kids, they've always...
That was a rough rally. I know. That was a rough rally.
So my kids know me as, you guys didn't know me. Y'all didn't know me for anything. Y'all didn't know anything about me. Mm-hmm. And my kids are like, Dad, why don't you tell them about blah, blah, blah? I'm like, I can't. I'll let you tell, Brennan.
Yeah,
they were young too, so...
Yeah, well, we were sitting in the car, and then...
Jeep, bitch, we don't drive a car.
Jeep, and Casey, isn't it a Casey's tire that one?
Don't call out people's names.
Yeah, I mean, no, he's absolutely right. That's where it started. Like, literally,
started
what was it, like 10, 15
minutes
into we didn't even leave Johnson City.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't even get out of the city yet.
Yeah. So as a kid, and we've all had a dad, on some level, every kid has had a dad or an adult or an alpha in their life that they look up to and say, but can't you know what I mean? We want to live through our gladiator. And our kids want, our children want us to be that hero, right? Mm-hmm. It's part of tribalism. It's part of the psychology. But go ahead, Brennan. My kids wanted me to give my opinion. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, it was just something that we've done 1,000 times, and I remember saying, hey, why you can tell him this or that, and then we could get it fixed. And then I remember him like, this is where I learned this, and it was really smart now that I think about it. And he was like, no, we just have to wait, and then
wait until they ask.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I said, Brennan, look, you got to be very careful when you give your opinion to a group that don't know your motives, that don't know you as a person. Like, you have to earn your way in to give your opinion and that being accepted. Like, it's a very delicate thing. And I don't want to walk up there and give my opinion. And I think if I ever had a chance to earn my respect, it was when, like, the second or third time, like, we're at an O'Reilly's and we're changing a wheel bearing. And I was like, I think we can change just the lugs. Right? And we call the O'Reillys, and the guy's like, no, you can't change the lugs. You got to change the whole wheel bearing. And in my mind, I was very passive about, I was like, guys, listen, I've never seen a wheel bearing that we can't change just the lugs. Like, I've done it so many times. Maybe this one's different, but I swear I think we can beat the lugs out and just change the lugs, not the whole wheel bearing.
The lug bolts and the lug nuts.
Yeah, and we pulled over, and everybody jumps in, throws a tarp up, and then I just kind of jumped in, and I seen a hole. I was like, yes, right here. We can knock them all out. And that was like my moment. And so me and Greg and Derek was all talking the other night. I was like, no, man, it's like there's like a skill to like you don't want, if you ever want to fit in, you can't just vomit on people what you know. Like, you have to be very delicate about it because you have to earn your way in. And I was like, that was my moment that I could say, hey, I think this. I was right. I earned a tiny bit of respect. Okay, show me more. And that's the way through life. If you're in a corporate position, if you're in in the service industry, it doesn't matter. Don't come out and tell people how to do it. Say, hey, I think it's this. Can I show you? Right? Be humble.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck how much experience you have. Be humble in your approach. And maybe I was the most. Maybe I've changed 7 million tires and 7,000 lugs. It didn't matter. I had to do it in a way. This is what I've learned about life. It doesn't matter if you're right, if you wind up alone in the end. Meaning, be patient. Like, find a way in. Use your charisma. Charisma is not about being fancy. It's about being smooth and patient. And does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And that's the way I see it. And the art of communicating. Charisma is the art of being able to break down barriers. Because everybody has a wall. And that wall is full of bricks. And this is what I've learned about being vulnerable. There's a book by Brene Brown. And she said, everyone has a wall. And that wall is covered, you're surrounded by bricks. And the secret is to figure out a way to negotiate someone taking the brick down, but never throw the brick back at them, because that's what people do. As soon as someone gives in a little bit and they tear down their wall a little bit, they let you in. The first time someone fucks up, you throw it at them. Bitch, I knew you was a whore. And they throw the brick, and then you never get that brick back down. So it's about luring people in. We're fishing. That's like the art of charisma, is being patient and never throwing shit up in people's face and telling them what a fuck up they are. It's like, no, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Like, don't make fun of people. Does that make sense?
Well, and just that, for an example, everybody's perception of what the problem may be is based off of their past
and their experience.
Yep. Yeah. So who knows, and that's, I've always liked to,
you want some ice?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Hey, Brandon, would you give me a half a cup of ice, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
But knowing, oh shoot, where were we?
I don't know. We were talking about people's experiences.
Yeah. Not necessarily, like you said, blurting out the answer, but through
helping people find the answer.
Guide the group.
It's where we started.
The troubleshooting.
Yeah. Don't tell them why.
This is where we start. And is there a little bit of water left?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Dude, you know what, Lieutenant Moore? Real quick, I want to go back to why and this whole thing. So the reason why, I don't know if it's the reason why, but the reason why I learned about putting whiskey in water, and I thought this guy was nuts. Lieutenant Moore. Love that motherfucker, by the way. I don't think he knows who I am now. He was high and tight. But he was the guy that said, don't ever fuck me over like this again. He loved whiskey and water. And I thought that was the oddest thing. But I was a kid. I didn't understand about diluting and yada yada. And now I just do it and let the ice do it naturally. But I bought him a huge bottle of whiskey before we ended. And anyways, he's one reason why I've learned about whiskey and water. Lieutenant Moore. I wish his name was Dan.
Dan.
Okay, so you were saying about the negotiation process of not necessarily telling people why, but allowing them to discover why. It's like, hey guys, have y'all thought about this?
Let's troubleshoot together, because together, and especially if you're the new person in the group, or people just don't know your background, your processes are different,
Yep.
And out of the 5-6 guys, that were there, it's like, well, in my experience, I think we should look here. And in my experience, we should look here, and you'll get 5 different answers.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, guys, well, what do we think about, and we, so it's a collective effort, what do we think about this? What do we think about this? What do we think about this? And, and I think that's...
this group's really good about that.
Because,
this group's really good about
yours
that.
and my mechanical backgrounds
What's how we
are
learn.
vastly, not necessarily different from each other, but vastly different from the group.
And each other's, though. I mean, it really is.
Well, yeah, and each other's, but more so, like, I think we're the only two that have actually worked for mechanical companies. Where we're like, okay, this is something we've had to do many of times.
Which honestly, I can say this. I've been around this whole group, and look, man, the night. Okay, That's funny. I've owned a mechanic shop. I've been my entire life has consisted of working on things for a living. I flipped my Jeep and had I had maybe, I would say 36 hours. It got to the point that I had 36 hours to strip everything off this Jeep
I remember
and
that.
build a new Jeep. And
It's my first time here.
I was so intimidated and lost. I've worked on everything. Multi-million dollars
And
in equipment.
Just to, in case any of the guys are watching, let's not to discredit any of the other guys' knowledge or anything.
No,
like
that's
that.
actually
It's
what I
just
wanna go into.
We kind of.
No, this is what's funny.
We're kind of stuck in our ways. It's quite the opposite, kind of.
But this is what's funny.
We're
This is
stuck
what's-
in our ways a little bit because we were routinely drilled a certain way.
Yeah.
Hey, this is how we troubleshoot this.
What's funny is that the night everyone showed up to work on my Jeep, because I reached out to Greg, and I liked everyone, but I didn't know everyone, and I didn't understand everyone, and I didn't know that I was a part of anything until I reached out to Greg, and I was like, okay, I have a Jeep that needs to be stripped in 2 days, and it's going on a fucking flatbed truck. I need all these parts off this Jeep. Me and Greg kind of bullshitted back for a couple weeks, and I was kind of taking my time. I was trying to find a Jeep to replace it, and I didn't understand the level of knowledge that everyone had. I thought everyone was an expert in building Jeeps or vehicles, period. And I'm talking to Greg, and he said, oh yeah, we can do it, no problem. And so the night comes, Greg invites everyone out, and he's like, but the night before, he said, we agreed to strip the Jeep that I rolled, and he gets there and it's raining. It was nighttime, and I was like, it's raining. Do you want to call it quits? He's like, fuck no, we're gonna do it. I was like, it's raining. He's like, I don't give a fuck. So we work all night long. We pull the springs, axles, shocks, everything. The entire undercarriage of a vehicle, we strip it in the rain in my driveway. The next night, everybody shows up. People bring food. People bring beer.
It was amazing.
It is. There's a cul-de-sac full of Jeeps. My neighbors had never. They were like, "What the fuck is going on?" Did you hear Brennan? Brennan says it's amazing, and I thought I was emotional. I could have fucking cried. I'd never. I mean, I could cry right now just thinking about it because I thought. But I know now psychologically why, because people want to be a part of something good, and that's good. And Greg is out there helping me strip this Jeep, and the reality is Greg knew just a little bit of what was required, but he was like confident enough to say, yeah, we'll fucking figure it out. And I'm thinking, that's my whole life. I'm trusting this guy that I thought knew everything. And that night, no one there would have thought that I had any experience in mechanical and electric. I never told anyone. I just kind of kept that to myself because I wanted to earn my way into the group. My whole life is nothing but mechanical, electric, welding, fabric, anything. I've done it because maintenance. That's all I've ever done. And but I was very patient because I know it can be you can burn yourself quick if you know too much. Like, you got to be very careful in earning other people's respect. And yeah, man, you guys come over and we stripped one Jeep, built another Jeep in 10 hours. And I had a running, driving Jeep. Tires, wheels, axles, differentials, shocks, springs, everything. To make one Jeep roll and another Jeep, and in 10 hours, we had a fucking rolling chassis down the road. And then the next day, I let Brennan and his buddies put my old Jeep back together. They didn't do a very good job, but it rolled up on that rollback and they drove it. It was totaled anyways, but I'll never forget it. I'll never forget. And then learning, like weeks later, I learned that, nobody really had this extensive, like everyone knew a little bit, but nobody had ever built like full on. And we had this moment together. And then so when people talk about me flipping my Jeep and destroying, I'm like, it was the greatest thing that ever happened. Like oh my God, I'm so grateful. My children they were missing that mechanical aspect of their life. Like they never was a part of that until I flipped that Jeep. That everyone come over and my kids, Brennan, I'm calling him.
Everything.
Yeah, I'm like, Brennan, I got a wheelbarrow in bed. He's like, all right. Well, like he's not an expert, but he
I know how to figure it out.
That's it. Don't tell him what to learn. Tell him how to learn, which is, I'll fuck
Yeah.
it. Figure it out. You'll figure it out. What are you going to break?
And that's the dynamic of our group, which is our micro community. You know, I feel,
Sam.
and you and I have talked about, we'll save this for another time, but bug out situations. You know,
I actually thought this is where it would go tonight.
alone, we can make it so far. And
Yeah.
I feel we're all survivors. Like, we'll be all right. But together,
Long term, you need a
long
community.
term, our group together is way stronger. Way stronger. You know, and we've touched on it numerous times where, you know, there comes a certain situation where Nathan needs to take the lead on this one.
Mm-hmm.
There comes a situation where Greg needs to take the lead on this one. You know?
You know what I've learned in this group? I love when someone else takes the lead. I think that is this group. It's a bunch of people that are tired of taking the lead, that are happy when someone else takes the lead. When you were talking about it earlier about circumstances where a lot of alcohol is involved and someone feels the responsibility of watching over. And I think that's important because drunk people don't make good decisions. Drunk people advising drunk people is not good. And when someone realizes, oh shit, there's 12 of us here and we got to find our way. Like we're in an unknown, usually that we're talking about, we go into places that we're like a guest. And then someone has to say, hey guys, we got to find our way home. And I think that's fucking amazing that there's always someone that is not voted into that position. They assume that responsibility once they recognize
they recognize that they need to be that person at that
they
time.
don't want to be.
And the rest of us acknowledge
Yeah.
that, that person needs to be
yeah.
that person that time.
Because the rest of us are excited that somebody else wants to take on the
And it
responsibility.
might not even be excitement, but we're just like, you know what? Yeah. You know what? He's right.
Trust me, I'm excited.
He needs to take that spot right now. You know what? And there's been times where everybody in the group at one point has disagreed with the overall vote of the group. But
Do we vote?
We'll still go with it. And
I've
hey,
never
it
seen
is what
us.
it is.
Have we disagreed? I mean, there's been arguments. I don't know about full-fledged votes.
I wouldn't even call it arguments. So I mean, I don't know about
Anyways.
any of the other stuff. But
Yeah,
when
yeah.
it pertains to like actual Jeep trips, wheeling stuff like that,
Well,
we'll
I
say,
wanna
hey, okay, this person needs to do it, and you know what? Maybe 3 people want to do it that way, and one person's like, I don't think we should. That one person is still going to go with the group and ride or die with the group, no matter that decision.
But I can tell you this. That's the difference about this group. The 3 people that believe it should be this way and the one person that is adamant, this group is willing to allow that one person to try. Let's see. That's the difference. That's the difference.
That's true.
That's what I see about this group. And I know people, because everybody wants to be a part of a group like this, and that's why it's so cherished. And I don't like talking about it. I don't tell too many people about the friends that I have because I feel so privileged to have the friends that I have. And I have a ton of friends outside of this group, but there's something special about the friends that I've met in the last few years that I will cherish forever. But I think a lot of it is that we are all like-minded in a way that the egos are not out of hand. That everyone, I've seen so many people that believe in something say, well, from my experience, it's been this, but if you think that's what you want to do, maybe I'll learn something.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll learn something is a common, like that's unusual. But I think it's unusual because of the size of the community. Once it gets beyond a certain size, that we are in a utopia. I like to talk about it a lot. People talk about socialism and Marxism. and what communism means. Communism stands for community, and it's a beautiful ideology. I mean, I love the idea of it, but it only exists in very small groups that have such a high level of respect of the people that they're with.
Egos.
Yeah, yeah. That's ultimately it. 3 kids, 7 kids going together to the middle clubhouse that are so worried about being exiled, because in a utopia you get exiled. You're not allowed in the group if you misbehave. That's a utopia. That's what it is. And after a certain number of people, it just doesn't exist. That's why a troop of 70 monkeys, it breaks up. Yeah. That's the reason why that's a utopia. And a utopia, from what I'm learning, I mean, I'm constantly studying. I don't think a utopia is peace and everything's glory and everything's beautiful and everything's easy. No, a utopia is what is it when you give in? Is it when you what is it when you compromise? A utopia is compromising. Is checking your ego and saying, well, I think it's this, but because you believe and you seem adamant, I want to give you an opportunity.
You believe in the group and the group's well-being over yourself.
That's it. That's a utopia.
And that's, yeah.
And we are not designed yet to do that on a large scale. Like, I don't know what scale we're at, but a tribe was Indians. Think of Indians. All the Indians existed in the United States of America. Well, at the time, North America. And they were still segregated. They still negotiated and they traded and they battled. But ultimately, they only agreed on so much. And once we don't agree, we will move to ours.
They battled on certain things, but overall, the
land was pure.
Exactly.
Yeah, they agreed on that.
They agreed.
Well, I think that
they agreed on the bigger picture. You know.
Yeah.
And that's
which was conservation.
Yeah, we lack today, but that's another time.
That's another time. I want to actually say that I've had 15 episodes now, and I've enjoyed every one of them. I don't know. I guess if you really got to know me, what I really like, if you got to see my search history, if you really want to know somebody, look at their search history, their YouTube. You know what I mean?
Oh gosh, don't look at mine.
Yeah, I mean, mine's. I don't know. I think that this conversation has been as close to who I've been for many, many years and what I believe, or at least what I'm curious about, you know, and I've really enjoyed myself, and I want to say thank you.
Thank you, man.
I've really enjoyed myself, and I'm so grateful.
You know what? I'm actually curious because we were all over the board, like what you're going to title this one.
What do you think, Brennan?
I have no idea.
Come on.
I don't know.
Well, the show's called Random Thoughts. For a reason.
It is Random Thoughts, and you know, from the shows that I've watched, they've been.
I feel like there was a common thread through this, though.
Maybe it's about the group, man. Maybe it's about the crew.
It's just about good people, honestly.
Good people.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It was definitely about keeping egos in check, and I don't know. I have to think about it.
A little bit about our backgrounds, you know, a little bit more about each other.
I mean, it could be all about you and our friendship. I don't really fucking know. I don't think it has to be about anything.
Oh, no.
I got to find a title, though.
You know what? Episode 15. That works.
Man,
Nothing
so
extravagant.
much.
Thanks again, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's always awesome.
God, it's too late. What time is it?
Oh, yeah, dude. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It just